Please be seated. This evening's meeting of the Council comes at a time of immense, heartbreaking sadness following the dreadful fire at Grenfell Tower. Every part of our community has been touched by grief. Alongside grief, there are so many other emotions, and I know that many of them will come to the fore in our debate this evening. So, to my fellow councillors, I ask at the outset that we all recognise there should only be one speaker at any one time, and that when not speaking, we listen to the person who is addressing the council. It shows no respect to those who have died and those who are suffering if we councillors abandon our own rules of debate. I understand there will be a motion to allow the meeting to run for as long as is necessary, and so I have asked Councillor Tim Ahern, as a former mayor, to join me as the Deputy Mayor is engaged in business of this meeting. I would like to propose that for this meeting, Councillor Tim Ahern takes the role of Vice Chairman. Is that seconded? Is that agreed? And now, before we begin the formal business of the evening, I think it right that we pause in remembrance. I am very pleased that Imam Sadek Hansali from the Al-Manar Mosque and the Reverend Mark O'Donoghue, Area Dean of Kensington, are with us, and I will begin by inviting Sadek to offer a few words.
Thanks. Peace be on you all. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most kind. It is a very sad moment. Yes, it is a very sad moment. And on the other hand, it is benefited time. Why it is very sad moment? Because we lost a lot of friends, a lot of families, female and male, boys and girls, children. Yes, they're supposed to be with us now, but their time has been finished. Some of them also, they're supposed to be with us now, but they are still in the hospitals, suffering. Some of them suffering emotionally, mentally. We pray that Allah give them good health. Benefited time because we are gathering all here to give support and to tell to those absent, we're not forgetting you. You are always in our heart. We are doing our best to save those who are still alive, to support those who are suffering. Yes, as you know, as you say, all of us here, government, people from many different faiths, the community, yes, we are here for this very important moment for us. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I now call on the Reverend O'Donoghue to speak to us.
We meet this evening 5 weeks after the awful tragedy of Grenfell Tower, as a community that has been heartbroken by the loss of loved ones, grief-stricken by the almost unimaginable pain and suffering that's been felt by families and friends. And yet we've also been overwhelmed by the extraordinary kindness and compassion shown by all kinds of churches and mosques, voluntary groups, community associations, all kinds of Kensington residents of all ages and stages, all backgrounds, all religions and none. And we've been proud of our brave fire services, the police and other first responders who demonstrated real courage and heroism on that awful night 5 weeks ago. But we also gather this evening with a real feeling of deep shame and even anger that something like this could happen in London and something like this could happen in Kensington. As a result, we're concerned, rightly, to seek justice for the victims, to address issues of housing, and to consider how we care for the most vulnerable members of our royal borough. So we gather this evening, 5 weeks after the Grenfell fire, as a community in need of hope, of a better future. Hope that we will come together as we did in the aftermath of that tragedy. Hope that we will stand together and shape our future together as we seek to help people rebuild their lives, as we seek to restore trust, as we seek to renew faith, love and hope. And so in a moment we're going to stand for a minute's silence to remember those who have lost everything, to remember the need to stand together, to remember those who are grieving or anxious about their future. And after a minute's silence, I'll indicate the time is up by reading a psalm. So let's stand together. The psalmist writes, "I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade on your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore."
Please be seated. Thank you, Reverend O'Donoghue. I now call on Councillor Hargreaves.
Order 42, I beg to move that Standing Order 24.01 be suspended insofar as it places a 2-hour guillotine on this meeting. but that instead the meeting shall terminate at the conclusion of the business of the agenda. And also that Standing Order 30 be suspended this evening to allow Councillor Elizabeth Campbell, Councillor Atkinson and Councillor Wade to speak without time limit in the debate on the election of the leader.
Is that agreed? Following the resignation of Councillor Paget-Brown, the Council is asked to elect a new leader for the ensuing municipal year. Could I have nominations, please? Councillor Addenbrooke.
To Leader of the Council for the current municipal year.
Councillor Husband. Councillor Atkinson, you wish to speak.
Council meeting, from the point of view of the majority Conservative Party, is to install a new leader with as little fuss as possible and then try to get back to business as quickly as possible. Madam Mayor, it is the role of the Labour opposition in this council chamber tonight, assisted by the huge turnout of outraged residents, to resist that from happening. The unprecedented disaster that has fallen upon this borough is something that I do not think that anyone involved will ever forget, and from which many will never recover. The Tory candidate for leader tonight has gone on record as saying that she thinks it will take a generation for those involved to recover. In fact, Madam Mayor, it will be several generations before the mental and psychological damage done to so many in North Kensington will fade. Madam Mayor, only time will solve the psychological damage that our community has suffered, but there are a number of practical and attitudinal changes that we can take immediately to assist the survivors and the community, and we must do so without delay. The resolutions that my group are seeking to put forward tonight are intended to do that, and I hope that they will be received with open ears and a genuine resolve to change. Madam Mayor, the thing that we must start with is to change the entire political culture of the borough of Kensington and Chelsea. I am now confident that at the council elections next May, the old regime will be swept away and a new listening and united council led by Labour councillors will take its place. But real change simply cannot wait until the electoral calendar, and I am certainly not advocating waiting for the elections and allowing the entire borough meanwhile to exist in a void. Madam Mayor, we believe that such is the anger and distrust right across the borough at the failure of this council and its creature, the disgraced tenant management organisation, that nothing that the ruling Conservative group says tonight can convince the people that you know what you are doing or that you care. Any Conservative cabinet is simply incapable of gaining public confidence and respect. And for this reason, our Labour group tonight will seek to vote down the election of a new leader, and we repeat our call for the imposition of commissioners to run the borough and to bring into effect real change now. We simply do not believe that there can be recovery until every vestige of the separation between rich and poor in the borough, which has dominated our politics for at least the last decade, has been done away with. From now on, this council must do things with its residents and not to or for them. Previously, you Tories have gone through the motions of public consultation and involvement, but as one of your own side said, we hear but we do not listen. The Labour opposition in this council has repeatedly warned your Tory housing and regeneration policies were breaking up our communities and exiling people who in many cases have lived here for generations. Uniquely in London, the population of the borough has declined, while all around us in other boroughs we see growth. Damningly, our school rolls are now falling sharply as a result of Kensington Council's policy of exporting our poor to other areas. And time again, in the last month, residents have told me not only of their shame at the Conservative Council's failure to handle the crisis following the fire, but also their fury at the social cleansing practised by this council in its regeneration policies and its failure to build new homes for all but the very wealthiest. Even before the fire, we had ample evidence of the loss of the credibility by the ruling Conservative group by the triumphant election of Emma Dent Coad as a Labour MP. And if this wasn't a vote of no confidence in the Conservative record in Kensington, then what was it? In opposing the election of the new Conservative leader tonight, I make no comment about her personal qualities. And in making an abject and unqualified apologies, and in going to North Kensington, she has shown courage and determination, qualities which her predecessor so lamentably lacked. However, the intended Tory leader is still part of the old regime and has no experience or knowledge of housing, regeneration or planning matters. Courage, whilst necessary, is not sufficient, and we simply do not have the time for a new leader to gain experience and to learn about the reality of the lives of the poor third of our borough. Not all of our poorest residents, however, live in the northern wards, incidentally, so Tory councillors from the south cannot be excused by saying they didn't know how bad things were for the poor in Kensington and Chelsea, and if they didn't know, they should have done. So, Madam Mayor, the Labour councillors are quite clear that we will not vote for a new Conservative leader and cabinet tonight, and we wish to have external commissioners brought in tomorrow, and assisted by the Labour Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who has both credibility and a democratic mandate. We need to get on with rebuilding the borough and alleviating the needs of the Grenfell survivors, who 5 weeks into the event are still not being listened to or having their needs met. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Dent Coad, would you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It doesn't matter if you leave in the morning from an overcrowded, damp-ridden flat in the Grove or from a £6 million, 5-bedroom house in Chelsea. If you have humanity, you deserve respect. I've lived over half my life in North Kensington, and I'm proud to be part of the community that has been so spectacularly betrayed and which has risen up in response. Grenfell survivors don't want apologies. They don't want charity. They don't want pity. They want respect, justice, and a permanent home to replace what has been taken from them so cruelly and unnecessarily. This council has let down Grenfell people, not just in the first few hours, not just the first few days, but every day for 5 weeks. Rearranging the deck chairs on the top deck of the Titanic that this council represents will not deal with this atrocity. We need fundamental change, and this cannot come about under this supposedly new regime offered to us tonight. If you cannot understand this, then you understand nothing. To borrow a much-abused phrase, this council is not fit for purpose. The world is watching. Do the right thing. Admit your failures. Bring in the commissioners before it gets any worse for those you failed. Thank you.
Are there any other nominations? Would all those in favour of Elizabeth Campbell please show? And those against? Okay, that's right. Okay. I can announce that the election of Councillor Elizabeth Campbell as leader is carried. Councillor Campbell, would you like to address the chamber?
Can you hear me? Madam Mayor, I would normally address my speech to you and members of the Chamber. However, tonight, I'd like to ask if I could speak directly to the victims, survivors and community groups of Grenfell and North Kensington. I would also like to invite any survivors who would like to do so to speak tonight. Yes?
I'm very happy that that should happen.
Thank you. We meet at a time of unimaginable grief and sorrow. The Grenfell fire is the biggest civilian disaster in this country for a generation. And in recent weeks, I have been meeting survivors, speaking to those dealing with the aftermath of the fire, and staying in touch with those still living in the shadow of the tower. The stories I've heard are heartbreaking, humbling, and life-changing in every sense. Families have been torn apart, their loved ones lost forever, and their communities broken up. And the victims of this tragedy have been let down by this council. We did not cope well enough in our initial response to the tragedy. And I know that you have heard me apologise for our inadequate response. And tonight I reiterate that apology to you directly. No ifs, no buts, no excuses. I am deeply sorry for the grief and trauma that you are suffering. I am deeply sorry that we did not do more to help you when you needed it the most. I want to thank community groups and volunteers for your extraordinary work. You went above and beyond and continue to do so. I understand why you're so angry, and I am determined to do everything in my power to help. And now, as the leader, the new leader of your borough, the place that is your home, I want to commit to...
Silence!
Okay. I want to...
Can we have some order in the chamber? Can you allow Councillor Campbell to speak and listen to what she has to say?
You want to commit to real
afterwards.
action. We need to do...
You will be able to speak afterwards.
We need to do so much more and work even harder to support and care for you. The cross-London, cross-public and voluntary sector Grenfell response team has made an exemplary start. And I want to thank John Barradell and Eleanor Kelly for their leadership of the Grenfell response team. I want to thank them for ensuring that the help that was so urgently needed was given as quickly as possible. More than 600 staff from local authorities across London and beyond have been working round the clock, all with one objective: to help the survivors and victims of this tragedy. And my priority as new leader is to continue to provide this vital, practical and personal support to the victims of Grenfell, right now and in the many months and years to come. The next practical step is to find you, the survivors, a permanent new home. We're talking to each and every one of you who has lost your home. We are working with you to fully understand your needs, and we will keep an open mind and show flexibility and sensitivity to your preferences. I'm sorry that this is taking so long and that many of you are still in hotels, and that is not where you want to be. I also understand that many of you wish to remain in the borough, and many of you want to return to live in the North Kensington area. I understand that you do not want to lose contact with your community, a community that has displayed such strength and dignity in the face of this disaster. I fully understand why you would want to remain close to those you know and care for, where your children are at school and where you've put down roots. We have already got 68 units in Kensington Row ready to move into. We're now working with the government to agree the terms of an offer to tenants, and we expect this will be ready within a fortnight. And today we have bought a further 31 homes in Hortensia Road. We have been scouring the borough for appropriate homes to buy, and I can tell you we have identified about 20 units on the market in North Kensington, and we will buy them if we can. I am not going to hold back from spending this borough's reserves. Reserves are built up to be spent in a crisis, and this is a housing crisis which we are going to overcome. On top of the 99 new units we have secured, we aim to build or purchase a further 300 social housing units, and we are going to deliver them quickly. That will be a total of 400 new units in the next 5 years. Now, we cannot fund...
Could you please stop heckling Councillor Campbell?
Now, we cannot fund all these new homes just out of reserves. So I'm going to be knocking on the doors of the government and of the Mayor of London and anyone else I need to ask them to help me deliver these homes. The government has offered local authorities the prospect of bespoke housing deals. So we are going to look at how we can secure a deal for North Kensington. A deal which allows us to break the chains on borrowing against the housing revenue account, to have more flexibility in how we spend right-to-buy receipts, and to work more closely across boundaries with other local authorities. I am prepared to think out of the box to finance our ambitious plans. But let me make the following assurance. Nothing is going to be built on the site of the Grenfell Tower without the full participation of survivors and their families, and those living in surrounding homes. I can guarantee that the future of the tower site will be led by the community. I've been speaking to residents of the Grenfell walkways who for weeks had no hot water and endured huge disruption. I know that you all witnessed the horrific fire. I understand that you find it difficult to return to homes where your children can't sleep. I understand why you are still in a hotel accommodation. Thank you, Councillor Benazir Lashari, for welcoming me into your home and for introducing me to your neighbours so I could understand at first hand your real concerns. I now know that many residents of the estate have long-running complaints, and many feel they have not been listened to either by us as a council or the TMO. So tonight, I pledge to work collaboratively and sensitively with residents to make the walkways a better place to live. We will work with you and your excellent Residents Association on upgrading the homes you live in and to improve the walkways. And I can state for the record that I have no intention of asking people to move out while we do so. Much of what I've said tonight, I cannot do alone. At the Town Hall, I need a committed team of councillors and officers to help me. Beyond the Town Hall, I am very grateful for the ongoing support of my neighbouring boroughs, voluntary groups and our government. I have said this council needs to change, and tonight I am appointing a new leadership team to help me make that happen. I'm appointing Kim Taylor-Smith as my deputy. Together we will work on our response to the Grenfell tragedy. Kim is going to make sure we find homes for all those who lost theirs in the fire. He is going to listen to hear what people want, and he is going to take a long, hard look at the TMO. Unfortunately, due to legislation and other restrictions, we simply cannot make changes to the TMO overnight. So in the meantime, this council will supplement TMO's services on the Lancaster West estate by directly providing those services that residents need today, tomorrow and next week. I have asked Mary Wheel to be lead member for communities. Mary lives in Kensington, and I am delighted that Eve Allison has agreed to work with Mary as her deputy on this vital community portfolio, as Eve brings with her a wealth of knowledge of North Kensington. We also have a borough to run, and so I'm making a few other appointments to my leadership team. Will Pascal will be my other deputy, responsible for ongoing borough services. Will is KNC through and through. He was elected in Chelsea and born in and lives in Kensington. I have asked Kensington Councillor David Lindsay to take responsibility for corporate services, and Emma Will is going to continue to lead family services, including education, while Charles Williams will take responsibility for adult social care and public health. Gerard Hargreaves will be the Chief Whip. This is a new leadership team which has been appointed to change the way we do things. We need to change, and to change fundamentally, if we are ever to regain the trust of you, our community. As a council, we have long been proud of our connections with local community groups. Compared to many other authorities, compared to many other authorities in London, we have continued to give direct grants or to commission services from many, many voluntary groups. But the tragedy of Grenfell has demonstrated to me that this is false pride. We have been found wanting. The people of North Kensington have inspired me with their spontaneous energy, with their compassion and with their kindness. They have shown us how hollow our previous efforts of community engagement now look. Our focus on achieving service excellence may have paid dividends in the past, but the world in which we now operate is extraordinarily different from our world of just 2 months ago. We now need to put the resources and the capabilities of the Council at the disposal of our community. Our residents have witnessed a kind of retreat from the street, where politicians and managers alike appear to have studiously avoided the public for the comfort of meetings and political or professional discussions. This must stop. We need to rebuild our credibility with our community, and we need to do that brick by brick, decision by decision. And we need to engage all community groups, those with whom we have long-standing relationships, as well as those who have emerged spontaneously in the last month. And we will help meet the needs of the victims and the survivors of the Grenfell tragedy. Recovery starts with your leadership, not ours. And that is why I want us to follow your lead. This recovery will be community-led as well as community-inspired. The spirit of civic action, which we've witnessed in North Kensington, will nurture a renewed sense of purpose and action in this council. So finally, I want to make 3 further commitments. Firstly, the culture of this council will change. In practical terms, that means we will create a future for this borough together with you, our residents. Our councillors and senior executives will not decide this for residents, but with residents. We will rethink all our plans for regeneration in this borough. We will work with residents to create new plans, and you will vote on any results. If people vote against it, then we will go back to the drawing board together and start again. Secondly, how we work for and with our community will change. We need to understand and appreciate the strength that is within our neighbourhoods, the very strength that stepped into the void after the fire. And we will listen and support that network of support rather than preach to it. We should be at one with our community groups, listening to their expertise and experience, and helping you to work with us to bring on young people, support older people, and nurture the community links that keeps places strong. And finally, Madam Mayor, how we deliver and manage social housing will change. Mixed communities are what make this great city tick. What binds people from different backgrounds, different cultures and religions isn't about a postcode, it's about being human. What happened after the fire, when the community came together in such an incredible show of human strength and compassion, will humble me for the rest of my life. It has changed me, and it will now change this council. And change starts here.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell indicated that some people here might wish to speak and address the meeting. So I would like to ask, firstly, the gentleman over here to say, to address the meeting. Have you got a microphone? Could you come over to one of these microphones? If you come to the microphone, it'll be easier for people to hear you. Thank you.
Before I start, please, if you allow me, there is 4 people outside. They are survivors. They didn't allow them to come in, and they're saying let me please speak, please. They're saying it's security reasons. Luca, his name is Luca. When he saved a woman and he carried her through the stairs, he never asked for security reason. Please, can you let them in, please? With all the respect I give you.
Yeah. Okay. Let them in. Can we find them? I'm sure there are some spaces over here if we could allow them to come in. There's some seats there. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they can sit there. Well, there are seats
Thank you very much for... Thank you for that.
Is that being arranged at the back there? Okay.
Okay. is can I speak? Can I speak? Can I speak for these people?
Could you please speak now?
Can I
Thank you.
speak, please? It's a shame what's going on, because as a survivors, we've been letting down again. As organizations, to organize something like that, I know there is elections, yes, I agree, no problem. But I'm having a problem here. There is people, they come, they should be having that priority, that respect, a privilege to be on the front, to see all this, and they begging and they knocking the door to have some respect. And they just come from a fire which is impossible to escape. They escape by miracle, and they're having this.
That's inhumane. That's inhumane. That's inhumane. I don't want to hear people knocking. I don't want to hear people trapped. I'm already traumatized.
Can we just calm
Please.
down?
I'm sorry.
Could one of the security guys come here?
I'm sorry, we're
and speak to us,
traumatized and we
please?
have already witnessed being trapped in buildings. Please do not lock doors. I'm really telling you the truth right now. Please open the doors. No, there are no fire exits should be closed. This is this disgrace. I'm sorry, you're making us panic. You're making us panic.
Just
Yes, but they It's not locked. Fire escape is not locked. It's an exit, not an entrance.
What is the problem if you don't let them in? Is it going to be a problem if they come in, the resident, the survivor? Is it a problem? It's not. It's not an issue. It's not an issue. Thank you. Thank
So
you.
What are you going to do?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. They can stand on the back, it's fine. Just let them stand. That's what we're asking for. Okay.
Could everyone please settle down?
Survivors. The time is running out. Survivors. Survivors. People. People. The time is running out. The clock. Hello. Hello. Excuse me. Please. Please. Please, can you come down? Okay, can we speak now? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks, ma'am. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Could you please let him speak?
Okay, it's fine. It's fine, please.
Allow him to speak, please.
It's been done. Okay, we have in here an issue. We have in meetings, we had meetings with the ministers, Nick Hurd and Sajid Javi, and we had with Mr. Sharman Alok. And we agree we will start a new page and get back the trust, which is we're starting from scratch. Because we've been letting down all the time, again and again, by the government. So it's just something happened to me just about half an hour ago. Nick Hurd, he gave me a promise, and he gave to the resident, Grenfell United, which is we've been working so hard to be united, to find each other with the help of volunteers, people, community, just to get people located where they are. We didn't have any information, any database. We did it ourselves. And we had meetings with them, and they give us a promise. If there is anything going to happen, any plan, any agenda, any procedure, any even elections, they will let us know, and they will give us the opportunity as a resident and as a committee, 11 members, to be allowed sitting here with you guys. You're not God, are you? You are human like me. Thank you. So, why? Again, a promise from the ministers. New page. But I'm going to let it go. Because I'm going to have a meeting with the committee, with the Grenfell United, with them again. But I'm so embarrassed. I feel like all the work, hard work we did as a resident and as a committee and as a survivors, I feel embarrassed. I cannot talk to the survivors. I cannot look at their eyes because of this. We're not here. We're begging to have a chair. I was begging for Edward. He's my neighbour. He's 16th floor. I was begging to let Edward come downstairs. Begging, please. I almost kissed his foot. It's a shame. And there is a space. You know, you don't need to have a space in your chairs. Space is inside the heart. It's not about escaping or fire or security reasons. It's not about, it's about controlling. I'm sorry to tell you that, guys, but you need to put your suit on the side. You need to put the politics on the side. You need to put the parties on the side. And you need to look at us properly as a human, person to person, to understand the position we are, to understand the people that died in that building. You can't understand us. Even her, by all my respect to you, she can't understand us. There is 10 pages here. 10. Everyone can see 10 pages. This is the agenda. Again, and again, is a business. It's a business. I'm so sorry to say that. It's a business. Again. They prepare this as a business again. It's not going down. Nothing is going to change. They change something. You know what they change? Do you know what is it? The names. Just the names. But we're still here. With our soul, with our spirit, and the people that have died, they didn't disappear, they're still with us. And we have a power from God, and we have them with us, and the truth is going to come out, and you all perished. You will perish, you like it or not. So our agenda, we'll tell you our agenda now. We're not going to follow any of this. We will follow each other. We're not. Do your job. You've been choosing the judge. We said we need a little bit more support with him. We disagree. We said this is a big situation and it's a very sensitive situation. And we approach you in kind way, sensitive way, to make you understand this is not one case. This is cases. We're not talking about one case. The public inquiry is not one case. It's cases. We need more. Not one judge. You choose it. You appoint it. And now, you're choosing for us again. Why? Why? What is going on? What happened to the government? What happened of the history of England? What happened, the hard job, the hard work, people before you and before you and before you, they did it. And they succeed. Even it was a little bit going around, playing, cutting corners, but they did. But you don't want to succeed because you want to do it by yourself, as parties. You're divided. You're not unit. You're not united. That's the problem. I want to make you understand. You need to be united to succeed. You know, we are. We are look, we are united. All of us. But it's a shame again, you didn't give us a chance to be part of the election. You bring us here as picture.
Someone else would like to address the meeting.
A lot of people up here would like to as well, but we've been locked out. Why have we been locked out? Why have we been locked out?
I don't think anyone's been locked out. It's a quick... Sorry? Okay. We will... We're going to elect... Okay. We will try and arrange. Okay. Okay. We're just going to allow this woman to address the meeting.
You've elected somebody who said that we will listen, but we won't hear. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense whatsoever?
Can we please...
This is the type of people you've got on your council. They will listen, but they're not going to hear us. This is the type of people you've got on that council, and you expect us to have faith. How do you expect us to have faith in this? And this is the type of people.
Can you please... Please calm down and allow this lady to address the meeting. Thank you. I think we're trying to arrange to get a microphone up there. Thank you. Can we get a microphone? Can we just allow this lady to address the meeting, please?
من محبوب جمال وطن هستم. My name is محبوب جمال وطن. با پسرم و دخترم در گرانفل تاور شماره 10 زندگی می‌کردم. I lived with my son and daughter in number 10 Grenfell Tower. من ایرانی هستم. I am Iranian. و شروع صحبتم با یه شعر از سعدی شاعر بزرگ ایران شروع می‌کنم. And I would like to start my talk with a poem from Sa'di, an Iranian poet who lived 800 years ago. بنی آدم اعضای یکدیگرند که در آفرینش ز یک گوهرند چون عضوی به در آورد روزگار دیگر عضوها را نماند قرار تو که از مهنت دیگران بیغمی شاید که نامت نهد آدمی. Human beings are members of a whole in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. For this is a poem from Sa'di, and it's similar to a poem from a British poet, John Donne, who came 200 years after Sa'di. He says, "For whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee." من اینجا حضور پیدا کردم به جای اون آدم هایی که سوختن و مظلومانه مردن و پود شدن. I am here to represent those who were killed, those who died innocently, and they are powders now. Their body turned to powders. و آدم هایی که 6 هفته دارن شب روز میسوزن و کسی اونا رو نمیفهمه و درک نمیکنه. And those survivors who are burning inside themselves and nobody hear them, nobody listen to them. میگم ما شما رو درک میکنین میفهمید ولی حقیقت اینطور نیست. They say we understand you but the truth of the matter is that they don't. من نمیدونم شاید بعضی این کلید رو به یاد بیارند. Does anybody remember this key? این کلید گرانفل تاور is the key of my home in Grenfell Tower. این کلیدیه که ورودی بود که ما میرفتیم داخل. I used to open the door with this key. و این کلید خونه من بود. This is my home key. پشت این کلید هزاران خاطره هست. This has got lots of memories for me. پشت کلید صدها نفر مردن. Behind these memories, hundreds of people have been killed, have died. هر وقت به این نگاه میکنم هر روز میگم چه فرقی بین ما آدم ها هست. Every time I look at this key, I wonder and I ask, what's the difference between us, human beings? ما همه انسان به دنیا اومد. We are all created human beings. قلبی پر از عشق و محبت. We all have got hearts full of love, full of affection. شرایط انسان‌ها رو فرق گذاشت. یکی تحصیلات کرد، یکی پولدار شد، یکی نشد. It's only opportunities and conditions that depart people from each other. Some get rich, some are poor. چرا انسان‌ها رو به ثروتشون میسنجی؟ Why do you judge people based on what they have got, based on their wealth? چرا انسان‌ها رو به قلبشون نمیسنجی؟ Why don't you judge them by their hearts, their character, their personalities? پس انسانیت و وجدان کجاست؟ So what does really humanity means? Where is it? حقوق بشری که خارج از UK برای کشورهای دیگه می جنگه برای رعایت حقوق بشر، همون آدم ها در این کشور هستن. UK is accusing other countries of the lack of human rights, and they say that we want to establish human rights in those countries. But there are lots of peoples, lots of nationalities from those countries living in the UK. چرا اینجا حقوق بشر رعایت نمیشه؟ Why don't you care about human rights here? شما سوال دارم چرا باید فرق بین کنسل نشین ها و آدم های دیگه باشه؟ I would like to ask you and think, why is there a difference between those people who are the residents of the council houses with other people, rich people? از نظر خداوند هیچ فرقی نیست. If you believe God do not differ between human beings. ما همه انسان هستیم. We are all the same. ما به دنیا اومدیم به همه کمک کنیم، به همدیگر کمک کنیم. We have come to this earth, to this planet to help each other, to love each other. خواهش میکنم از شما به ما کمک کنید و حمایت کنید ما رو. چون وجود ما سوخته است. وجودی که یک عمر باید اون رو با خاطرات رو با خودمون حمل کنیم. Please, I want to ask you to understand us, to stay with us, to support us. We are burning inside. We have gone through lots of traumas. خواهش میکنم با ما بازی نکنید. I beg you, do not play a game with us. خواهش میکنم به ما دروغ نگید. I beg you, do not tell us lies. خواهش میکنم وقت ما رو نگیرید. I beg you, do not waste our time. ازتون خواهش میکنم حداقل فرصت مشکل ما رو حل کنید. We are not beggars, yeah, but I beg you, I ask you, I want you to talk to us and to try practically to resolve all our issues, our problems. نذارید بقیه‌ای که زنده موندن بر سر فشار روحی از بین برن. Do not let the others, the survivors, die and their lives ruin because of the pressure and the traumas that they have gone through and they are still struggling with. اون موقع دیگه کمک‌های شما به درد ما نمیخوره. Then your help is not going to do anything for us. ما الان نیاز به شما داریم. We need you right now. ما الان میخوایم شما کنار ما باشید. We want you to stay by us, with us right now. ما الان میخوایم شما ما رو حمایت کنید. We want your support right now.
و ما میخوایم الان شما ما رو درک کنید.
We want you to understand us right now.
ازتون متشکرم.
Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good evening. I'm a survivor from Grenfell Tower also. However, I am extremely disappointed, firstly, that the people who have lost relatives in Grenfell Tower were not made priority for this meeting. Before me, I see 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 chairs, 12 comfortable chairs. It's sad that you could not invite the father who lost his family or the relatives of the girl who's been orphaned. It's sad that you guys are actually here doing business in terms of different parties. So I see blue ties, then I see red ties. So we're here as survivors meant to actually take your word for it, these people that sit before us all. And also, have you taken into consideration how you make yourselves comfortable in terms of giving yourself comfortable, luxurious chairs, as well as a glass cup, as well as a bowl of water? But it's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. Because it goes to show, and there's no point of us actually being in this meeting. So I'm going to let you know this. I'm going to let you know this. No. You don't get to do this. No. Let's just hear this out. Let's just hear this out. Okay? No acts of violence, no aggression, no cursing. Nothing has happened to this community from the crime that was committed against us. So what I will tell you is, you're not going to get what you're looking for, which is to get a provocation and intimidation. You intimidate our community daily by exposing that tower to us, by dragging your feet and not doing your work. You have enough money. Don't take the mickey. No. Give me 1 second. Don't take the mickey. You have more than enough money. We are educated enough to do background research. We have relatives and friends in every sector and in every possible level. When you talk about this poor and rich, again, you are undermining us, and you might as well call me a Negro. Do not take the piss. What you tend to do is to call us poor. We are poor in what? What exactly? We're rich in love, culture, heritage. We're rich in dignity. Don't take the mickey. Don't. You're doing it continuously. You're playing a game with our lives. But yeah, it's not about me, and it's not about these gentlemen and these adults that are here tonight. It's not about the adults that you cramped up into a nice little 30, 40 seats at the top, heated up with no liquids or no bottles of water. You're so disgraceful. You're disgracing us now. You're just so inhumane. You're dehumanizing us. And I really don't get it. But one thing is for sure. We're going to name you, we're going to shame you, and we're going to expose you to millions across the world. And no, madam, you don't get to just sit there, get a couple of your best buddies to vote for you. Madam, believe you me, if you haven't got Kensington and Chelsea community, madam, you ain't gonna be in the chair, madam. Believe you me, madam, this community better bless you for you to be in a chair. We've already lost trust in you and your party, and you have murdered us. There is a criminal manslaughter here, an inquiry going on, and here you are trying to get your best friends and your other friend. You're switching names on us. Don't play games with us. Don't play games with our children. Don't try and wipe us out like we are some cockroaches and mice. We're humans. We've got more power than you really think. And I'm going to bring this to your attention. There will be no violence, but we will make a difference, and there will be a change. I'm being serious. You can sit there and look all stunned. I don't care about your blue tie, and I really couldn't care about you people. Because you have committed a crime against all of us here. You invited us, and then again put us at the back of the room, put us into some squash little compartment. You've got empty chairs here. How disgraceful is it? There's a little girl that's been orphaned by your system, by your policy, by your greed, by your selfishness, by your political gain. Yes, Labour Party, thanks for coming along. I can see 1 or 2 humans here amongst you, but believe you me, it ain't over. Because if you think you're also going to sit on a chair and then also mistreat the citizens of this country, you're also going to be taken off the chair in the future. This government that's in power, you're not going to be in power much, okay? And you're not going to be in power anymore. I promise you that. We promise you that. And I don't think we should actually be here when all these chairs are empty, when Mr. Hassan is not here, when so many relatives of the lost are not here, when we cannot find an answer as to how many are still missing and confirmed dead. You can't even give these people a bottle of water. You are thinking about yourselves. You are selfish. We shouldn't grace you with our presence. Sorry, I want to add to that, and we leave in. Do you agree, everyone? Do you agree we go out? Do you agree with that or not? Do you want to stay here? So let me add to that. She's not taking TMO down. She want to change TMO, make it better. The criminals, they're not going out. The criminals, they're sitting here. They're going to keep going with the system. TMO, they're not going nowhere. They're still managing TMO without no questions.
Okay. Would you like to address the meeting now?
Good afternoon. Sorry, I need to censor myself right now because I was up there with the families of the missing and the dead, and I encountered with my friends here the same panic at being faced with a locked door when all we wanted to do was address in a very polite manner and to address some of the real valid points that my family have encountered. I'm speaking on behalf of my niece, who is no longer with us. My brother and my sister-in-law are unable to speak in public at the moment because their pain is so huge. On the 4th of July, I wrote an open letter to you, Councillor Campbell, and I published it widely on the Grenfell solidarity groups and so many groups that have sprung up that we use to support each other. And thank you for those people who have set those groups up, because they have been a lifeline to all of us in keeping us informed where we were not informed by the authorities of anything that was going on. So in my letter to you, Councillor Campbell, I mentioned that my niece would have been, it was her 13th birthday on the 4th of July, and I approached you and I addressed you with a broken heart, but a level of optimism. And I asked you, I pleaded with you actually, that you take in charge. You were named at that stage as a potential leader of the council, that you address this role with humility and humanity, and that you went out there and you met the families and that you worked with them. I would invite people in this room to raise their hand if they have actually met you, particularly the families of those who are dead and missing, because I know my family have not. How many? Anyone? Hands? My response to you. You have yet to dignify my letter with a response. It was an email, by the way, so you can trace it. You mentioned that the council's response was inadequate. Actually, I think you should be highly embarrassed by the response. And the fact that other councils had to step in and set you aside because they felt that they could have a level of cohesiveness in their response because I was down here. I'm not actually a resident, but I was here to support my family. And I was there for 2 weeks solid, and we didn't see one council member down there, except our local councillor. I didn't see any officials there helping. It was the Red Cross. It was actually, first of all, the local community who were feeding and giving us water and clothing. So your response was totally inadequate and totally negligent of your responsibilities, for which we have placed you in your places by voting for you. You mention that the reserves are to be spent in a crisis. Really? Actually, your reserves should be spent in providing appropriate fire prevention for those buildings. That's what your reserves should have been spent in. Good quality refurbishments. Decisions were made at every step of the way, every single step. Sprinklers, no sprinklers. Cheap cladding, or cladding that would have reduced the level of combustibility. Signage. You know, I've heard firsthand from, this is a recently refurbished building, that signs weren't up to tell them which floor they were on. The residents themselves had written it with felt-tip pen. Really? How much of that money that is publicised about this refurbishment actually went on that building? Because I cannot believe the figures. Those inadequate decisions have led to those deaths, and 80 is too low a figure.
Liars.
Regarding rehousing, that is a total joke. Some of these people are highly traumatised. We, the families who weren't even in the building but made our way there in the middle of the night, are traumatised. Okay? But the people who survived are just as traumatised. And they've been placed in tiny, tiny rooms in hotels. Because obviously the paying guests need to take precedence. But actually we need to be prioritised. We need to be prioritised. They need to be prioritised. Have you actually gone to these hotel rooms yourself? You see, so where is the humility and where is the humanity? You said that the plans will be led by the community. This was your address earlier on. And if the community voted against them, they wouldn't go ahead. Councillor, you heard earlier on, they voted against you. So how can this go ahead? How can this go ahead? What experience do you actually have personally of the different cultures affected by this? You said that you had been humbled by the strength of community. But have you actually gone out there, rolled up your sleeves and helped them? Have you actually?
Have you?
It's, that is what should be humbling you. That is what you should be doing. It's getting out there. And, as a member of the family of someone that was deceased, a simple acknowledgement to an email would have gone a long way.
Can we have one person at a time addressing the meeting?
Resign.
Okay.
You're not listening. I haven't voted you. You let my wife and kids down, so resign. You've murdered my friend's wife and kids. You're not going to murder my wife and kids. Resign. I don't trust you. I don't trust your party. Resign.
Could we please calm down?
You should not go in power. You have to kill me. Kill me. Have to kill me, and then you can take the power. No, honestly, kill me and then you can take the power. Because I don't see why you can't listen to all those people who came through the fire. Listen to their folks. They don't want you. They want Emma. They want Jeremy. I don't want you. I don't want you. My son doesn't want you. My daughter doesn't want you. My wife doesn't want you. doesn't want you. You've let the dead down. Now you want to come for the living? Are you having a laugh? You're not in power. You will not be. The people must choose you. And we have not chosen you. So, madam, please, madam, step down and resign.
Okay. All right. Would you like to address the meeting?
Yeah, I would,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, my name's Edward Daffan. I lived on the 16th floor of Grenfell Tower, and I was a co-author of the Grenfell Action Group blog. Elizabeth Campbell, you were talking about how this council has treated community groups. Let me tell you about 3 community groups that were in existence in Grenfell Tower. There was the Grenfell Tower Leaseholders Association, there was a Grenfell Action Group, and there was the Grenfell Towers Compact. We weren't allowed to call it a resident association because we were so bullied by the KCTMO that we had to call it a compact. Let me tell you that all of those 3 organisations throughout the past 2-3 years have been telling this council explicitly how you were treating us, how you were putting our lives at risk, how you were treating us with contempt. And when I sit here now and I look out, I see the same councillors, you included, who were responsible for that. You roll your eyes at me, but I will show you an email that we wrote to you in July 2010. July 2010, on the eve of this cabinet taking the decision to fund the Kensington Aldridge Academy. And we wrote to you, and you were CC'd into that email, and we told you if you build this building, you will be putting the fire safety of Grenfell Tower residents at risk. And you ignored us. That email was CC'd to our MP, the leader of the council, and to you, Elizabeth Campbell, and you ignored us. The way you treated our community groups was despicable. We've got Quintin Marshall sitting there, who was head of the scrutiny committee. We came to see you twice at that scrutiny committee. You remember that? Once when we had the power surge issues, when we were all nearly burnt to death in 2013. And then once again, after our appalling treatment during those refurbishment works. And we came to you with complaints about poor workmanship, bullying by the contractor, bullying by the KCTMO. And these weren't the first time. You, councillors, sitting there. Councillor Wheel, we listen but we do not hear. Councillor Fawkes, who walked past me the morning after the Grenfell Tower fire and accused me somehow of making political capital out of what had happened. Yes, Councillor Fawkes, she did. Councillor Hargreaves, who used to just stand by Nick Paget-Brown at his Ask Nick sessions, acting like a kind of Rottweiler. And let's ask 2 more questions. Nick Paget-Brown and Councillor Fielding-Mellon, I detect there are 2 empty seats at the end of the row there. How are you allowing these 2 councillors to remain in office after everything that happened? I'll come to the end because I haven't written anything or prepared anything. But if you, councillors from the ruling party, honestly believe that you have the legitimacy after everything you've heard here tonight, after everything that's happened in North Kensington over the past few weeks, you need to seriously reconsider, because I'll tell you one thing, the wounds that have been created in North Kensington are not going to heal as long as you are ignorant enough to believe that you have a right to rule over us.
Credit card. I hear old man's cutting
Could we have some silence, please, so we can hear the next survivor who would like to talk to the meeting? Thank you.
Make clear that I'm not a survivor. I lost 3 family members in the fire and 2 friends. So that is 5 people that I need to find a way to mourn. And on top of that, I've got friends and family who have lost people. Okay, I'm not going to talk about that now. But what I do want to say to all of you guys here, the way we as the family of the deceased have been treated is disgusting. We've been left out of meetings, yeah? We literally, I've been finding out about meetings 30 minutes in advance and having to find a way to get to these meetings, yeah? We're being swept underneath the carpet. Survivors have got a voice now, they can talk. The dead cannot talk. I'm here... And also, I need all of you guys to understand exactly why these outbursts are happening. Do not think we're not animals, yeah? We are not animals, and I can see the way this lady, I don't know who she is, keep telling people to be quiet. You guys rolling your eyes. There was another guy sitting over there leaning back. We're not even looking in this direction. You need to listen to us, and you need to feel what we are feeling, because there is... All right. So, we're being treated as cattle right now, okay? The family of the deceased are being treated like rubbish. If we are not being treated properly, how can we have faith that you're going to treat the survivors properly? If you cannot have respect for the dead, if you don't have respect for the dead, how can we have faith that you are going to deal with the survivors the way that they deserve? How? We've been passed through from family liaison officer to key worker. Each of them are directing us to you guys for help. How do we have faith in you? How can we come to you guys for help? Do you know, I can't even talk. I can't.
In the name of God, the compassionate, merciful, my name is Sajjad Jamal Watan. I'm going to start with this. You apologize, right? Everyone has apologized. But it's important that we have accepted it or not. So far, we haven't. You know why? Because you haven't done anything. What have I done? What all these charities have done? I tell you what we have done. I haven't slept. For 6 weeks. Have you slept for 6 weeks? I think so. You have. 8 hours, 6 hours. I haven't slept because of a reason. For those family who died, I've been doing a death tour to see how many precisely I've done. I've been doing more than the police. You can ask Stuart Candy. You can ask him. I've done more than him. I've been helping charities. How charities been helping me as well? The ground, we are like this. On the top, you guys on the sky. You're looking at us from the plane. You don't see us. We are vanished. So we have done this. We have done a lot for ourselves. But what is the next thing? Your responsibilities is right now in our shoulders. You need to know this. Okay. In 6 weeks, what could you have done? You could have, in the first week, deal with the families who lost their families, you know. Could have dealt with them. You could have housed them in the first week. What could have you done second week? Families that have children. Families that they are disabled. Third week, old couples, you could have housed them. The rest, the Grenfell, in 6 weeks' time, you could have sorted this out and we would be sitting here discussing this. You could have brushed it out of the way. You know why you didn't? Because you're not organized. You're not even organized as we are. We are united. We are here to teach you how to be united. These people need to be like this. On the night of the fire, this is how people were walking, the firefighters. Why? Why they were not running? If I was a firefighter, I would run. I would kill myself, but save 10 people. I would have done that. I would be so proud. My mom would be proud of me. Yeah. Where were your facilities? Flexible, unflammable ladders. Where were they? Zip lines, oxygen capsules, sprinklers, facilities. Why, when at 3 a.m. people are coming out, why they still burning from the cladding that dropping on top of their heads. Yeah, what did you... In the helicopters, they could have brought some stuff, water, some powders. What they did, they helped the fire. That's why we say you killed us. You helped the fire by the helicopters. That's why we think we got killed. Because you actually helped the fire. Thank you very much. Next thing. I'm going to explain you this. When I say get rid of the laws, the procedure, all of this, I've got a reason. You guys need to look at us, in our eyes, ask us what we need, personally, one-to-one. All those people, don't decide for us. Come to us first, ask us what we want, and then you start making your rules, your agenda, your procedure. Right now, you need to do what? You know what you done to the Grenfell Tower? You burn it? You can do that to your papers as well. There are 5 million rules. You need 5,000 only. Burn them all. Burn everything. Burn the law. Yeah, burn the law. You want to write a right law? Come to us. We tell you the right law. We tell you. We tell you. You are capable. Trust me. I tell you why. If here was Theresa May, Stuart Candy, one from the royal family, and let's say Sajid Javid, these 4 people, if they were here, we could have got this so easily out of the way. You know why? Because we can tell them what they need to do. We can tell them. They can sort this out. They got money, they got the power, they got everything. They can sort this out in 2 hours. What time is it? It's 8:30 nearly. They can do this easily before 12, the next day, before 12. All of this can be sorted. Because why? Because there's a strategy. You need to follow the strategy. Not your strategy, our strategy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One very last thing. When I speak about the strategy, I've got something ready for you. If you want to hear it from me, come to me. Thank you.
Hi. I originally was put to come here to deliver a petition on behalf of the Silchester estate, which is the neighbouring estate to Lancaster West, where Grenfell Tower stands. I thought about not coming, but our prayer has 3 strands, and they seem just as important now, more important now. We, the citizens of the Silchester estate, have 3 simple requests. We make them on behalf of everyone throughout the borough, and you may want to think for a moment whether things would have turned out differently if you'd adopted these principles earlier. We ask you to treat us all fairly, equally, and with respect. Seems straightforward. But can you look into your hearts, and can you say that you treated our neighbours in Grenfell fairly? The residents who warned of fire risks were threatened with legal action. That smacks of contempt, not respect. And treated equally? Maybe if you guys had spent as much time considering the safety of the people in the tower as you are dealing with the control of this room, things would have been different. So, residents, let us participate fully and actively in the decisions which are going to affect our lives so catastrophically. When you lot went missing in the aftermath of the fire, this community participated in bringing order. People all over the world saw how we responded to the crisis. For almost a week, we governed ourselves. You lot were cowering in the town hall, probably shredding your documents. Yet, when the former deputy leader, our property developing neighbour, rock-breaking felon, dropped into one of your stage-managed consultations, he told us even if every one of us opposed regeneration, decisions would be made here at the town hall by the Cabinet and the Cabinet alone. He repeated it the next time. I think he was letting us know that the village cannot dictate to the big house. You withheld the financial viability report until Grenfell Action Group dragged it out of you. It was a freedom of information request. It contained no commercial information, your reason for keeping it secret. We've had enough. Did you notice at the last election you managed to lose this, the flagship Tory seat, to a tireless campaigner for North Kensington? Did that get home? Your whole attitude has to change. What is the point of regenerating a neighbourhood if not to improve the lives of the ordinary people who already live there? This community has proved its worth in the last few weeks. This community works. Yet nowhere can the council find a place in its financial viability assessments to attribute that value. The worth of this borough lies in its people, its communities and its cohesion, not in the value of the housing stock. It's time to talk to us, not your mates in the construction business. I mean, Eleanor Kelly, just to let you know, your new boss, who's been sent by Sajid Javid, is the woman who regenerated Haygate. She knocked down, 2,000 social homes, and how many she built? Where's she today? All public office holders are both servants of the public and stewards of public resources. This land is our land. We are not your serfs. Regeneration destroys the informal support networks that underpin community. Incomers rarely consider the regenerated neighbourhood as home. It's just a base. The outcome is the loss of social cohesion, the community undermined. We are now turning our request into a demand. We want you to make a genuine commitment to genuine resident participation in the decisions which materially affect our lives. Let's conserve what we have now, not what we might build if we destroy this neighbourhood. Otherwise, you end up like Oscar Wilde's cynic, knowing the price of everything and the value of nothing.
Hello and good evening to everyone, Grenfell residents. I wasn't planning on speaking today. I never came to speak and I'm still reluctant until the last second. Only because my friend kept telling me this is a circus and this is exactly what they want and we're falling into their hands. Whether it's the media, whether it's the councillors, I don't know, but we're not falling into no one's hands. To start off with, the gentleman earlier on was saying the poor north of Kensington, the poor. He kept using this word poor. People don't like to be addressed as poor. We're not poor. The only people that are poor are the people that use our situation, our grief, and all this that's happened to us for political gain or for the media to get their ratings up. Yeah? These are the poor people. These are the people with nothing inside them. They're empty, they're hollow. And nothing means nothing to them. People dying, people are burning. You know what? Yeah, ratings, positions. Let's prove that party right. I'm not into party politics. I'm not a fan of the Conservatives. I lean more towards the Labour, but this is relevant right now. What is relevant is the people. What is relevant is the survivors that have come out through under crazy circumstances. So that's first of all. Poor is not a word to use. Number two, what all of you have got to realise is that in Kensington we have a big divide between whether it's cultural divide, whether it's class divide, so you need to understand that a lot of people need different things. Different cultures, different positions, different classes. You need to try and accommodate to everyone's needs. For example, we were shoved upstairs. As everyone knows, there is no AC today in the town hall, right? Okay. You all have nice fancy bottles of water in front of you. They gave us a bottle of tap water with polystyrene cups. And we had to ask for it. And they served 8 to, 50 people, 30 people, 40 people? 8 cups of water. We're not being heard. We're not being heard, and things are not being addressed. Our main concerns are not being addressed. Our main concerns are, and now I understand that a lot of people are against Elizabeth. I'm neither here nor there, to be honest with you. My main objective of this is what's happening now. What are you going to do for us now? That's what I want to know. After this, I live on the 18th floor. 18th floor. I've got a wife and 3 children. And she's pregnant, to be honest. They escaped at 3:15 in the morning. I've got family in that building that never made it. I've got friends that never made it. My granddad's best friend never made it. My kids' friends never made it. My kids' teacher never made it. Yeah? I'm grateful that my family are out, but at the same time, I'm burned up inside. I'm hurt that my neighbours, my friends, my family, they never made it out. So, previous people that were in charge of all this, they need to be accounted for, and I know that's the public inquiry and so on and so forth, that will be addressed. However, what are you doing now for the residents? What are you doing for us? Yeah? Okay, now, in our situation, I'll just explain my situation to you. I'll explain my situation. I've been put in a 1-bedroom hotel room. Me, my wife, and my 3 kids. My wife was in intensive care for 3 weeks. My 2 children were in intensive care for 12 days. My 3-year-old came out early. She came out 4 days. So I had my 3-year-old. So they gave me a room for me and my 3-year-old. I was forgotten about. Until now, it's me, my wife, and my 3 kids, and we still have 1 bedroom, a double bed for 5 of us in there. Yeah? What are we going to do? The main problem the people have, the main problem the residents have, is lack of action. Now, what we feel is that everyone's just trying to tick boxes. Everyone's just trying to, basically, you know what? We've offered this many homes, we've offered this, we've done this, everyone's looking at their own resume. The truth of the matter is, not you, no one done nothing for us. You know who done something for us? The residents of North Kensington, our community, our neighbours, our families. They done for us. They done for us. On top of that, the fire service were great. I can't say nothing about the fire. They had a policy in place that was a shamble. I'm with you. However, the firemen on ground, they done their best. The ambulance service done their best. The nurses and doctors were over. You know what? Whatever I could give them, whatever I could do for them, I'll do. Because honestly, I've got the utmost respect for them. Yeah? However, everyone else, nothing. You speak to the council, you speak to DWP. DWP said, oh, didn't you get no money from the charity? Huh? You're asking me, didn't I get... It's a shambles. It's a shambles. You're expecting the community to do more for us when it's not meant to be. It's meant to be the council. I don't care who's the head of the council right now, as long as they address our needs. As long as they come and sort out our problems right now, not in a month, not in 2, not in 4, right now. People need to be rehoused. People need to be rehoused. We can't live in flats. We can't live in, hotel rooms. We need accommodation, and temporary accommodation. All right, yeah, 12 months, and then we'll review it, and then maybe it'll turn permanent. This is not ticking boxes. This is it. It's unacceptable. So what we need, look, brothers, please, like when we're speaking, like there's a place for everyone to come and speak and give what you need to say in it. Otherwise, we're falling into their hands. The media's hand and everyone else's hands. We're not clowns, and this ain't a circus. Yeah? So what we need is, from the heads of the borough, to start cutting down all this chain of command, all these 10, 15 different people by the time they reach us. We need more direct contact. This meeting, half the people never knew about it, half the people did. Our key workers are fantastic. I was asked by one of the members, how's your key worker? Are they helping? Our key workers, well, my key worker, sorry, some key workers are not so good, and some residents have complained. However, my key worker, she's from the borough, she's fantastic, but she's not receiving the resources she needs from the council to accommodate my needs. It's not happening. So what we need is to cut all the drama and all the media and everything else, and party politics has to be left out. People lost their lives. Kids, children, elderly. Like, come on, like, if this doesn't affect you, if this doesn't put a pause to your party politics, and if it doesn't put a pause to all this media coverage, then what is? Honestly, what is? You have no heart. So please, address people's needs, and most of the people I speak to is the housing right now. They want to be housed. They can't be... I've got suitcases of clothes that I've been trying to buy for my kids in a hotel room. It's not right. So, like I said, I wasn't going to speak. I never came prepared, but I had to say something because I'm just seeing the media loving it, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much, Mrs. Elizabeth Campbell. I want to thank the council members for coming. The only question and the core question I would like to ask you, what part of my body would you want me to give to demonstrate my frustration in provoking the humanity in you? I've had a life. I would have preferred to have died in the inferno than survive, because the children that got roasted, innocent children that got roasted in that inferno, did not deserve to die. And up to now, you are aware that the coroner met the families on the 4th of July. We've gone past the 5th week. Nobody is aware of the number of bodies that were recovered on the 23rd floor, or the 24th floor, or the 15th floor. We plead with you, humanity. Plead with you. Plead with you. If my dog died, my neighbor will phone the RSPCA. After 3 days, they will come and interview me and find out how my dog died. Innocent children went to bed and woke up in ashes. You are the chief mourner. You have lost lives. As a leader, you lead a community of humans, not morons. They may be poor according to their bank account, but according to the God Almighty that made them, they are endowed with riches and wealth beyond what you can quantify. That is why I'm pleading with you. I can give my 2 arms and be armless for the rest of my life. If we can start getting closure to widows that have lost their husbands, so that they can have some funeral. Because we know, as a human, you can bring back the dead. We know that. But we can at the very least, treat them better than dogs. That's what I'm pleading. I'm begging that there be closure to people that we know are no more. Please don't tell me 80 people died. Please, please. It's hurting to hear that lies led to death, and the more lies are being told. We know that they have mobile phones. On the basis of the signals from their mobile phones, we can pick out how many people were in the buildings. Please, the Royal Mail can tell us how many letters were delivered to that building last week. Please, please, let us be human. Let us know that the bank may have all the money, but they don't have all the power over life and death. If the coroner described it as apocalyptic, that means it's a big disaster beyond words. Why can't you influence your friends and colleagues anywhere in the world that are now going on holiday? I heard today some of our national leaders are going on holiday when we haven't buried our dead. We haven't even identified our dead. We have still people going to 9-to-5 job. Mothers are here. They get text messages every hour of the day, 24/7. If it's really an emergency, every single one of you should be working 24/7 until this is resolved. The Prime Minister has no right to say she belongs to the human race if she takes off on holidays when there is such apocalyptic disaster at home. You are the chief mourner. There are children there that if they had survived may have won an Olympic medal for the country. There are doctors there that may have discovered the next cancer cure. There are children there that we've killed because of our love for money. Please, please, whatever you want me to do, if you want me to stand on my head, I will. Please, let's have humanity back and talk to the survivors and hold hands of mothers that are in tears and hold hands of widowers that are in tears, because until the tears of the people dry, they cannot see clearly to even begin to engage with you. We are humans. We are better than dogs. Please, please, enough of speeches. Tonight, when we all finish from here, we should roll our sleeves up and go and speak to 1,000 police officers. Drive them there. Get all the dogs in Heathrow and Gatwick down there. Let's get all the resources that we have as a nation and redeem ourselves, because the world is looking at us and laughing as if Britain is now a banana republic. I sent out a tweet to my colleagues, and they were asking if it's only 3.5 minutes flight from the Thames to the point of destruction, how many helicopters were taking water from the Thames to the point of discussion? My Twitter followers, it's a ridiculous, beyond ridicule, that we stayed back and waited for the entire building to burn out because we preferred the love for money than the love for lives. And after the death, I would have thought, mothers, every mother here that is a counselor, every mother here, go and hold the hands of another mother. Every father, go and hold the hand of another father. Speak to the children that are in St. Francis Assisi, the Catholic school next door. They ask too many questions that I cannot begin to answer. You will hear this question. You will believe that they are human beings. You will do something. Please, I'm begging you today. Whatever you want me to do, amputate my legs, let me be legless. But let's for once, for the very, very one time, prove to the world that there's some bit of humanity left. And let's forget about officialdom, papers, procedures, because it excellently failed us on June the 14th. It's evidence that it failed us. If it didn't fail us, we would not be here. If we lost every property, lost every TV, lost everything we had, we could replace it. But if we lose one cell, we're incapable of replacing it. Let alone leave a human being. Please, Councillor, that's what I came here. Please be human. Please, please, please be human. Please, please be human. Please, 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 please. This is the clothing I had that fell on me. This is the clothing I had. It came straight from the flat. I cannot let it go until you produce for me the bodies of the people that were in there. I can't. It's inseparable from me. I don't know what humanity is. Please redefine humanity for me and show that you are flesh and blood. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Good evening to you all. Hamid from 16th floor. I'm not prepared for this, to be honest. And this is a community who works hard and hard like me. Maybe start early morning, 4, 3 o'clock in the morning, go to the market, come and finish at 4 or 3. I bet everyone knows me, and I'm very known to the community. It's been the 5th week now. Why have we been not rehoused? I'm talking now. Let's start from me. Me and my mom, she's 90 years old. Is that clear? And I'm in a hotel, in a room. Yes, well, I don't want to make that as an excuse, okay? In the meantime, I am the main official carer. This is in our culture. I don't, I don't bother asking the council to give me someone to look after my mom. I look after my mom myself. I can't just close my eyes and I do whatever. I can clean, I'm very known to the community. So, now it's 5 weeks now, and we've spoken to all of the governments. Alok, Nick Herb, Sajid, nothing is going on. I don't want to talk, to be honest. I'm very tired. I had enough. Not just me. There is family. They've got kids. I don't know how they are surviving. Me, myself, my daughter, she's 13. Fine, no problem. We're dealing with that. My son is 18. No problem. Myself, I work. But now, I don't work. Why? Because I don't want to mix things up. If I want to work, I need where to live. I don't have a place. I'm not going to go to the hotel. I don't want to go to them high. To me, everything is the same. 5 star, 6 star, 20 star, 2 star, 1 star. It doesn't bother me. I need a place where to go and start my life. Full stop. I'm not asking for something big. I respect everyone here. I'm not with no one, none of you. I am completely different, and I work for my living. Since being in this country, I work, and I am very proud of myself. One thing which is very, very important, which is I'm very lucky because that night my mom, she was not there. So she survived. Otherwise it's just going to be ash or a missing person. Thank God she's with me. So please, she's alive. Can you do something about it? Speed it up. We need to move on. We want to go to work. Kids got to go to school. And then things coming up after. As I said, maybe all my neighbors from the 16th floor, Edward, Eddie, and I really can't remember my neighbors now. But I remember Eddie, and from the 15th floor, few people. But there is one thing which is inside of me, still hurting me. I was, when the fire starts, whatever, we don't want to talk about it anyway. So I am sick because I was planning to go upstairs, but I really was in a very, very bad pain with the smoke, which is the poison smoke. So, and after a very careful decision, I made a decision for myself to run for my life. And I met with the fire brigade, and I can't talk about it, in the 15th floor. And so, thanks for your time. Sorry.
Hi everyone, my name is Amina Muhammad. I'm living 8th floor, 51 8th floor, Grenfell Tower. I want to thank the community first, who help us, and the charity, because they not come us to help us for the, like, all the community, all charity for in London, that night or another days will not survive. It's a Ramadan, it's a night time, in the morning, in the night time, it's happened, the fire. We couldn't sleep, we couldn't do anything. We just watching the people who burn the building, and we traumatizing. We don't wear nothing when we come out the building. And the who even first straight away give us the food and give us the water is a community. All community, Muslim community, charity, Muslim, all charity, they give us, bring us food. Even the days when we live in the hotel, they come us and they give us, they bring us food, cook, ready, or everything. The clothes, everything. We have to thank them because we cannot never forget how they help us. Since the fire, I couldn't sleep properly. I have seen people who waving their hands in the 21st floor, 22nd floor, and 23rd floor. Some of them I know. They are my friends, and they all gone. And I know they're not going to come back. Some of them I know the faces, because when you every day go with them in the lift, you know the people in the faces. And now they all go. We cannot forget that. It's all our heads. And if I see the pictures, they make me sad. And ask myself, I know I'll survive. I can thank God I can survive. And how can I survive? My nephew living with me. And that night, if he's not there, maybe I don't know if I survive or not. He's playing PlayStation. And then he wake me up. He's shouting at me because he smelled the fire, and then he wake me up. When he wake me up, then he go to all our neighbor in 8th floor. He knock the door one by one. They all wake, and all we survive and live in the building. Since the fire, I moved 4 hotels, and I don't know now where I'm still gonna be staying. I didn't go to work. I'm confused. I don't know where I'm going or what I'm doing. I'm leave one hotel. The hotel is no problem. It's very nice, but still I cannot feel a home. I cannot feel confident. I cannot feel my life back to do whatever I can do. You know, I used to wake up at 6 in the morning, leave 7 o'clock, start work and then come back 6 in the evening. Now I'm stuck in my hotel. I can't do nothing. Well, we only need the people who survive. You have to give them what the facility they need, like accommodation. We have to build our life in this again. If we stuck this place in the hotels, we cannot be build our lives in one small room in a hotel. And we're not going to be same, and we're not going to be normal in before. We cannot be not going to be same. What we see it's not going to be forgotten in our heads. We don't know what time they're going to be come out, but still, it's still in our head and heart and head. Why we're thanking to the people, a community, they do whatever they can to help us. Every day we have to go to them. The Wasteway, the rugby center, they give us everything we need. They ask them nicely, calmly, they help us. So what we want to ask you now, people who lost the people and people who survive, you have to look back and then you have to give us whatever we needed. You can help us. And again, I'm thanking the community. They are all of them, if they're Muslim or Christian or charity, all of them, they help us. They do the role they can do. But the council, we're still waiting for them, and still we're stuck in the hotels. So thank you I'm not going to say more than that, but we need you to look as a human being, and you have to see how can we build, you can help us, how can we build our lives again. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you all, and good evening everyone. My name is Muhammad Rasool. I've lived in Grenfell Tower since birth, so I know a lot of the long-term residents there and the new ones. I know what the block is like, I know the area, I know the community. Maybe they know me, maybe they don't, I'm not sure. I know a few people that they know me. The tower block, before there had been fires in our block previously, they'd never spread the way this fire did. They would stay in one flat for half an hour, and the fire brigade would come and put it out. I'm from flat 25, Grenfell Tower, by the way, in case anyone wants to need. I just want to ask, is the council, have you started your own internal investigation as to what went wrong? Yes or no? You have? Well, please, when you get to the bottom of what went wrong, make it public, because from what's been made public of information, the architect who was originally assigned the refurbishment design, they had all the good intent. There were sprinklers in there, there was safe cladding. Where down the line did that go wrong? And who was responsible? And why aren't these people being held accountable? I could go on, but you've seen everyone's responses, everyone's reactions, the general sentiment is a gross mistrust in the whole establishment. The fire brigade were under-resourced. The individuals, the firemen and women, they did a good job. They were trying their best, but they were under-resourced because of austerity cuts. The commander-in-chief of the fire brigade, according to Nick Hurd, when he asked her, did she have everything she needed, she said yes. I beg to differ. There were so many failures on so many levels. The dry rises in the block weren't working. The fire alarms weren't working. We didn't have a break glass point on every floor. Who authorized all these cutbacks, and why have they not been held accountable? You have these things on record. We feel like we've been let down by the whole, by the council, by the government, by the police. You're not the people to address. I should be addressing the Prime Minister really about the public inquiry and the judge and the justice. Because data was seized or information was seized 3 weeks after. What is that about? If someone was suspected for petty drug dealing or suspected of terrorism or extremism, and yet they hadn't killed anyone, them and their whole family would have been arrested and then let go. Arrested first, women, children, whatever, and then ask questions later. Why have people, when over, however many have died, over 100, you say 80, or whoever says 80, the police say 80, why has no one been arrested? Why has no one been made accountable? People have just resigned, and as if that takes away the blame from them. Where did all this go wrong? And we've been consistently let down over the years. Our voice hasn't been listened to. So please appreciate just the sentiment. We are in a position where we don't trust anyone. Not you, not the general government, not the police, not anyone. Because we're not seeing enough being done.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name's Wesley. I'm from flat 62. At the time of the fire, first of all, sorry, my heart goes out to, you know, the ones that's been lost. First of all, I pay my respect to you guys. I was very fortunate enough to survive with my mum, my wife, my 7-month-old daughter. Now she's 8 months. We are currently staying in a hotel, 5 weeks. My wife moved from Philippines to this country exactly 1 year ago today. I was fortunate enough to have my daughter still alive and my family, but I've lived there all my life, just like Mo, who was just here before you guys. I was born and raised in Grenfell Tower. I've lived there for 29 years. My mum's been there for 34 years, and I recognise most of the people, the residents. Might not know their names, but I know their faces. I mean, you've heard the anger from all the residents, and I can see why they're really angry, upset. You know, I don't like the media. I don't like to bring attention to myself. I work. I'm a hard worker, just like all these other people. They work. You know, we live in Grenfell Tower. We built that area ourselves, not you guys. You brought in a new academy. You knocked down the football pitches before that, a car park, sports centre, all of that I've seen come and go. You know, I look at all of you guys, I don't even know half of you guys, you know, to be honest. But, you know, that's what it is at the end of the day. Like I said, we've been living in the hotel for 5 weeks. My daughter's at the stage now where she, you know, she's learning to walk, learning to crawl, learning to talk. But what can she do? She can't do any of those things because she don't have a home. And you guys ain't offering that to us. You know, all this housing assessment, I'm sorry, it's just a waste of time. We need quality homes. You guys promised us that, what, 2 weeks ago? You guys failed. Why can't you listen to all of us? Why can't you listen to the residents? You know, they're pleading out for answers, pleading out for homes. You know, we want to rebuild our lives, and you guys are not giving that to us. I've had to come in and out of work, start from 6 in the morning, finish at 12, and then run around and, you know, find out what's going on. I shouldn't be the one running around. Neither should these people as well. I was told a couple of hours ago that there's a meeting here and we're allowed to give our voice. And, you know, I want answers just like everyone else. And I hope you guys can do something about it, because you guys, you know, quite frankly, haven't been there. You guys let us down. You guys weren't there at the fire when it was happening. You guys are lucky that you guys have houses. But what about the other people? What about the people that's lost their families, their kids? I'm fortunate enough to have my daughter. What if that happened to you guys? You'll be exactly in the same position as what we're feeling. So please, I ask you guys, you know, hear what we have to say and help all of us individually. Don't just sit here and just look at us. Do something about it. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for your contributions and for telling us your stories. And we will now carry on with the ordinary business of the meeting. this one first, 3.
Go to the petition.
Why? What about you?
Because it addresses this and addresses their issue rather than my issues.
Okay. So I will go to the first petition, which is the petition on Silchester Estate. And is Piers Thompson still here to speak to the petition? They want to do the chief executive first. Sorry, we will go to item 3. The appointment of the chief executive and head of the paid service. I call upon Councillor Elizabeth Campbell to move the reception of the report and Councillor Hargreaves to second. There is an amended recommendation to add the duties of returning officer and electoral registration officer.
I beg to move, Madam Mayor.
Good man.
Councillor Atkinson wishes to speak.
Heard what we have heard from the residents and survivors. I think it's appropriate that we keep our remarks short. I think what we have heard from residents is that the attempt by this council, I think, tonight to try and move forward in the old-fashioned way has not convinced residents, so I would repeat that it is still our preference that commissioners be sent in order to establish some order and to get some results. However, if you're determined that we can't have the sufficient commissioners for the time being, and I'm pretty certain that at some point the government will send in commissioners, for the time being, I'm pleased to welcome the appointment of Barry Quirk as acting chief executive. In Barry Quirk, we appear to have a man of relevant experience who does understand the issues around housing, regeneration and governance. But I do need to say to Mr Quirk that the Labour group and the communities of Kensington will judge him not by what he says, but by what he does. And as a good public servant, I presume he will say very little in public. But having praised Mr Quirk, I must also warn him that as far as the Labour councillors are concerned, and from now on, the buck stops with him. And to maintain the confidence of the Labour councillors, and more importantly, to win the confidence of residents and the community, he needs to take some actions immediately. A good start will be to announce that the regeneration programmes that have been foisted on the community are suspended immediately. And in the case of the Silchester Estate regeneration programme, are simply withdrawn and permanently buried. Secondly, and equally importantly, we need to see an early start in dismantling the tenants' management organisation and its replacement by a proper housing department, which will be directly and genuinely answerable to tenants and the community. The TMO is widely distrusted and, not to put too fine a point on it, is hated by everyone involved with social housing in the borough. The reason why it is so urgent that the TMO is done away with immediately is that we already see that the poisonous ethos of control and deny that has characterised the TMO's dealings with tenants continues to infect those external officers who have been brought in from outside to deal with the housing needs of the tower survivors and the immediate vicinity. While some sensitivity, empathy and patience have been shown by some internal and external housing officers, we continue to hear distressing and totally unacceptable accounts of some officers continuing to show impatience and bullying of the vulnerable and grieving people of the tower. And until the controlling and punitive culture of the TMO is rooted out once and for all, there will never be a solution to the housing needs of the Grenfell survivors. nor is there any hope of winning the support of anyone in social housing in the borough. The third area in which we need to look for rapid progress from the new Chief Executive is the rebuilding of governance services in the borough. And I urge him and all councillors to pay close attention to the first motion to be brought forward tonight by the Lib Dems and the helpful and constructive amendment to be moved by my Labour colleagues. Madam Mayor, this council allowed its services and its officer corps to be diminished and hollowed out in a mad dash of outsourcing and cutbacks, to the extent that, come the crisis of the Grenfell fire, there was no sufficient skilled and experienced officers in place to deal with the disaster. So the third immediate task for Mr Quirk is to rebuild a competent and large enough senior officer corps to deal with the serious challenges which the Council now faces, and crucially to rebuild the morale of the rest of the Council's officers, who have soldiered on and done their best to continue to provide services in the face of extremely difficult working conditions, both since and before the fire. In praising the efforts of most of the Council staff, I have previously compared them to lions led by donkeys, and in recent weeks, lions led by no leadership at all. So, in welcoming the appointment of Barry Quirk as Acting Chief Executive, the Labour Group urges him to be a lion in facing all the challenges that we will now be faced upon him.
Is the recommendation to appoint Dr Barry Quirk as Chief Executive and Head of the Paid Service and Returning Officer and Electoral Registration Officer adopted?
Agreed.
So I declare that carried. Move on to the minutes. The minutes of the annual meeting of the Council held on 24th of May have been circulated. Is it your wish that I sign them as a record? Sorry, confusing me. Okay, is it your wish that I sign them as a correct record? Have you got them? No, I haven't got them. Where's the minutes? Where are the minutes? Okay. It's not it.
Thank you very much. Apologies.
Okay. Then it's your part. Part 5, Chief Executive.
If I could just say to submit apologies for absence from the following councillors: Councillor Awan, Councillor Coates, Councillor Kyron, Councillor Fielding Mellon, Councillor Nichols and Councillor Paget Brown. May I also submit apologies for late arrival for Councillor Mills. Are there any members who wish to declare a disclosable pecuniary or other significant interest in any item before the meeting?
Councillor Shari.
I live on Lancaster West Estate and I've lived there for 34 years. I knew some of the victims who've passed away in the tower and I know some of the survivors.
Thank you. So move now to petitions. The first petition is the petition on Silchester Estate. Members will see that the Council has received a petition in excess of 1,500 signatures about Silchester Estate. Piers Thompson wishes to speak for the petitioners. I shall now call upon him to address the Council.
Well, I've already delivered a petition, actually. In the lack of control that this Council displayed in controlling this meeting, I ended up submitting my petition in the previous part of the meeting. Okay. I've actually just been outside where I've been telling members of the press what I saw in here. I saw Grenfell survivors hammering on a locked fire escape. I saw a cabinet appointed, made up of people who are implicated in the decision-making process that led to Grenfell. I saw you, our new leader, Councillor Campbell. I saw you roll your eyes when Ed Daffan was telling you We saw you roll your eyes, madam.
Okay, can I just say that we should be talking about the petition. I agree you did refer to it earlier on, but if you would like to say anything more about the petition, we will hear you. Otherwise, we will move on to a debate.
All right. I'm going to read the prayer out one more time, because it strikes me that the prayer is relevant to everyone in North Kensington. We, the undersigned, support the residents of the Silchester estate in these three requests. We got over 2,200 signatures. We were heavily supported by our neighbours in Grenfell Tower. That petition contains the signatures of people who are no longer with us. In fact, the Pig and Whistle has lost a dozen regulars. Schools have lost teachers. Schools have lost kids. Anyway, we wanted three simple things, and perhaps if you'd adopted these earlier, we wouldn't be in the state we're in. We want to be treated fairly, equally, and with respect. TMO tenants, leaseholders, freeholders, housing association tenants, and businesses. We want full and active participation in the decisions on the fate of Silchester, and we're speaking for every estate throughout North Ken. We want unfettered access to financial viability assessments. Grenfell Action Group eventually got ours. It was a freedom of information request, and it was dragged out of you on the grounds it contained commercial information that was sensitive. There was no such information in it. That was a lie from our old friend, rock-breaking felon. The last thing, we want residents to make the ultimate decision on what happens to our community. We want a veto on wholesale demolition of the estate. And that's it. It's not really too much to ask, is it? You tell me.
Councillor Thompson wishes to speak.
Trying to speak on this petition as Councillor Blakeman is trying to speak on it, but I'm sure that I'm not the only member in the chamber who feels really quite uneasy that we've just heard from survivors from Grenfell, but actually we as council members have in no way responded to what we've heard or what they've said. There are two issues in my mind about this. There are really important substantive issues before us as a council this evening which require proper debate and which may actually be better if they're adjourned to another occasion. And actually what we should do with the rest of this evening is respond to what we've heard and the specific questions that the survivors of Grenfell have put to us, but we have actually not answered.
Councillor Taylor-Smith.
Thank you. I've got a script here, but I have to say, having sit and listened to what we've heard this evening, and I agree with you, Councillor Thompson, it's very hard to have a discussion about just Silchester. You know, and it's for me, I mean, I was talking to Mark O'Donoghue when I came in, and I explained to him the job that I now have from Elizabeth, which is deputy leader with a view to looking at North Kensington. Somebody said to me today, congratulations, and I thought, actually, it's not really congratulations, it's actually a really mammoth task for me, and it's more a question of, but as far as why do I want to take this job on, and the answer is because I believe in life that sometimes you need to step up, and you need to try and right wrongs. And I think the best memorial for me, for these poor people that, you know, have lost their lives, would be to change. And there will be change that comes out of this. There will be a national change, because it is going to affect the way that building and building regulations are done nationally. And I think very much an important local change for Kensington and Chelsea, in terms of providing the housing that's so much desperately needed and changing the culture. And, you know, we do need to change that culture. I'm not sure that I think, you know, I take the point that you're saying, but I think we have a certain business, and I think there's things within the business that we're doing where I think we're going to demonstrate from the rest of the motions that we are looking to change, and we are looking to try and improve things and trying to right this wrong. Specifically, I will just respond to the few points on Silchester, and that is that, first of all, I'm very grateful that this petition has been brought. And secondly, I agree with everything that Piers said. I mean, there's nothing I disagree at all in terms of what he's requesting. These are all very reasonable requests for somebody to make. You've heard the commitment from Elizabeth that we should change and work with our communities. She's committed that we have to look at this TMO and see how we can... Well, I've got to be careful what I say, but clearly it's something that needs to change as far as that TMO is concerned, and it needs to be radically looked at because it is failing and it is not delivering what it should be. I think as far as the residents of the Silchester estate, I'll reiterate what Piers was asking for, and that's the commitment that we will treat all residents fairly. We will ensure full participation in the decision-making process. And they will have the final decision on what happens because it's their homes and it's their community. And in short, we can do nothing, you know, with this community unless we get the community coming with us. As far as Kim Taylor-Smith is concerned, again, I'm going to acknowledge the three commitments that Elizabeth has made, and that is to change the culture of the council, to change how we work with this community, and to change the way we deliver and manage our social housing. And I'm very happy and very proud to accept that challenge and to look to improve housing across not just North Kensington but also the borough. And I think the words were used, you know, words are very cheap, and I would hope that you would judge me on my actions over the next coming months. So thank you.
Councillor Blakeman.
Sorry, just for the avoidance of doubt, will the Council now write to every resident within the Silchester Red Line area and tell them that their homes are safe from demolition and that they will have any decision made by them on the future of their estate?
Just to repeat what I said, absolutely. And I would certainly welcome, I don't know if Piers is still here, but I would like to go and meet him and to understand Wiltshire. I know the estate, but I don't know the history, and I clearly need to know that history. And we need to know what the short-term issues are and address them as a matter of priority. Thank you.
I'd be delighted to extend the same invitation which former Deputy Leader Fielding Mellon took up, which is to come round for coffee one morning.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to do that tomorrow. Thank you.
I ask the Council to recommend that the lead member, Councillor Taylor-Smith, take into account the Councillor's comments about the petition. Now, as we go forward, taking on board what Councillor Thompson said, we have... sorry. Councillor Lomas, do you want to speak on this?
Well, Madam Mayor, I was just going to say, sort of further to what Councillor Thompson and Councillor Taylor-Smith has said, you may be addressing this now, but I don't know whether it's necessary for us to formally put a motion that we adjourn the rest of the meeting in order to do what we want to do and have a debate, because I know that there are motions on the paper that are important but can be discussed another time. And I think it is important, and I think Councillor Taylor-Smith recognises that we use the rest of tonight, and Councillor Thompson, that we use the rest of tonight to answer some of the survivors' questions. So it's just a question as to whether what you were about to address was whether we use the rest of this evening and all the time that we have to answer the survivors, or whether we...
I was about to say that the next item is actually the petition about Grenfell, and we have actually someone who will come and speak to that. But I think after that, maybe we should just respond in the terms that Councillor Thompson and Councillor Lomas has decided, unless...
No, Madam Mayor, on that point, sorry, I wasn't suggesting we scrap the petition. I just wanted to create as much space for people in the gallery to sort of hear us answer their questions. And if that needs to be put by formal motion, I'm prepared to do that, and I hope someone would second.
Can I
we
have
be pragmatic about that.
Agreement from the majority party on that? Agreed? Councillor Moylan.
Of the motions, including the amendment moved by the Labour Party to the first motion, if they are not to be debated this evening, could she indicate that the majority group would have voted for the motions and for the amendment, and that informal discussions about their implementation could begin before any future meeting at which they might be formally tabled and voted on?
Councillor Campbell.
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Atkinson, are you happy that we proceed in this way? That we take the petition and then go to a general debate on what we have heard tonight? Okay, thank you.
Have been agreed with the amendment.
I think it's all formal motions, yeah. And the questions to the Cabinet members...
Is it necessary for us to... Four of them. It might be useful if the entire Council were to vote in support of these resolutions. It can be done very quickly.
Should we do that now?
Take motion one. Those in favour?
Okay, motion one. Sorry?
Deal with the petition.
Do the petition first. Okay, well, it's confusing me. Okay, got to the petition. Members will see that the Council has received a petition in excess of 1,500 signatures about the Cabinet Grenfell Tower and regeneration. Eve Wedderburn wishes to speak for the petitioners. I now call upon her to address the Council.
Before I begin my address, I'd like to say that the petition is supported and presented by Friends of North Kensington Library, standing shoulder to shoulder with the other community-led campaigns, One Voice Community Collective, the Save the Earls Court Supporters Club, the Save Our Silchester campaign, Westway 23, Save Warnington College, This is North Kensington blog, Friends of the Kensington Odeon, RAP 23 and the Grenfell Action Group. Cabinet members, since 2010, I'm here to deliver a message from North Kensington. We do not recognise your right to govern our community. Where to start with a council whose overblown ego is embodied in the very building this very building that is the result of a criminal act, where the presence of a public to whom you are answerable is merely gestured towards. That public gallery is smaller and significantly less plush than the mayoral apartment in this building. And most of our supporters right now are sitting in the hall that you dare not share with them because you're afraid of being shouted at. We fear the loss of our homes, our public spaces, our community. We fear your decant policy that makes us homeless. We fear compulsory purchase orders that buy our houses from us and propose to sell them back at double the price. We fear your cosy relationships with developers to whom you sell the ground from under us. We fear being burned to death in our homes and abandoned by those whom we have paid to look after us. You fear being shouted at. You routinely dismiss our petitions. Councillors have been heard stating that one handwritten letter has more value to this council than any petition. If that is your view, it is incompatible with the democratic representation with which you are charged, and I invite you, councillors of the Cabinet, to picture now the writing on the wall. Stand down. If you think... If you think you have You deserve a mandate from the community they will re-elect you. Ironically, Nick Paget-Brown asserted that self-governance in North Kensington would lead to chaos mere weeks before he presided over the complete breakdown of the social contract in our area. Councillor, your gesture resignation as leader, your mealy-mouthed sorry not sorry statement indicts the whole of your leadership. Stand down. But Paget-Brown's views are echoed elsewhere. Ahern has stated to the Planning Committee that the people should not be trusted with decisions. Councillor, the gross incompetence of your planning department to oversee basic safety standards in your own buildings, as well as your revolting attitude to those whom you serve, means you should not be trusted with councillorship. Stand down. Elsewhere, Paget-Brown's colleagues share his view that the main problem arising from the massive failure of statutory services to get a grip on this crisis is one of perception. Coleridge only resigned as chair of the Kensington Foundation because of the problem of perception. No, Councillor, the Foundation is set to handle the majority of donations for the fire disaster that you have presided over as Cabinet Member for Housing. The problem here is not perception, but your actual culpability for an actual crisis, which makes you unsuitable for any ongoing role in the rebuild of our community. Stand down. Those among you who think the challenge of this crisis lies in public perception, stand down. Those of you who agree with Councillor Wheel that your role here is to hear but not listen, stand down. Those of you who have done the dirty work of developers, stand down. This means you, Councillor Moylan, wined and dined by Minerva's representatives, Terrapin, and coincidentally denouncing the Kensington Odeon building, which they subsequently bought and demolished. Or you, Councillor Fielding Mellon, handing over public buildings to private schools that you plan to send your own children to. Stand down. Stand down if you think that stockpiling huge reserves, Councillor Lightfoot, while cutting down on estates, facilities and services, Councillor Warwick, is in any way necessary in this richest of boroughs. Stand down if you think that cutting corners has nothing to do with community safety, Councillor Hargreaves. Stand down if you cannot understand that we protest your actions, not because we enjoy the protest, because of tiny things, Councillor Fawkes, like the effects of your decisions on our lives. Fawkes' response on the morning of the fire to hearing a survivor's account of barely escaping with his life from a building he had been warning the council about for years was to accuse him of political point scoring. Councillor, if you think the trauma of Grenfell Tower is a political point, stand down. All of you who regard residents raising concerns about fire safety as a political point scoring, stand down. This includes you, Councillor Campbell, who ignored residents' concerns back in 2010 about building directly in the emergency services access to Grenfell Tower. Need I remind you that fire crews had to run through several streets before tackling the blaze? You are discredited before you even begin, and before we look at your record of dismantling children's and youth services, a process continued with glee by you, Councillor Will. It will not take a generation for this council to heal the breach with the community. It will take regime change. So stand down. Drop the plans this Cabinet have made for the seizure, demolition and sale of our public assets, including estates. End the stitched-up cabinet system and return to the more democratic committee system. Support communities to build their own neighbourhood plans like those developed by the St Quentins and Earls Court neighbourhoods. There is legislation in the 2011 Localism Act for communities to become the authors of their own futures, and the one uncontestable truth that has arisen in the wake of this crisis in North Kensington is that North Kensington is a community more than capable of looking after its own. The value you are so determined to sell to the highest bidder has been created by our energy, our diversity and our creativity. So hand over the design and planning of the neighbourhoods that rightfully belong to us, because this village no longer recognises the legitimacy of your estate.
Councillor Blakeman, you wish to speak.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Congratulations to Yvonne on her speech. I was pleased to sign this petition, and I want to speak to the part that refers to the Council's failure to respond to the litany of safety and fire concerns raised by the Grenfell Tower residents. Because the residents used every correct procedure. They referred their own complaints to the TMO, councillors referred their complaints to the TMO, the former MP referred their complaints to the TMO, residents set up the Grenfell Compact for collective consultation, the Leaseholders Association sent many inquiries to the TMO, there were motions in the Council chamber and a petition to the Housing and Property Scrutiny Committee. Yet at every stage, everything was either ignored or batted away with platitudes. The Grenfell Action Group said it would take a catastrophe before anyone was heard, and this was dismissed as a hysterical overreaction. All this is well documented, and all these documents have been given to police officers who are undertaking the criminal investigation. My opinion of this situation is very clear. Everyone in a position of authority ignored the plight of the residents of Grenfell Tower until it was too late. The petition to the Scrutiny Committee was crucial because it asked the committee chairman to undertake an urgent scrutiny of the TMO and the contractor's management of the refurbishment project that was then underway at Grenfell Tower. It asked for the views and experiences of residents to be canvassed and to be included in the scrutiny report. Instead, the committee agreed that a delegated group of TMO board members would review the issues raised by Mr Daffon, who spoke at the scrutiny committee, and needless to say, this review found that the conduct of the refurbishment programme had been exemplary. Sadly, it was a paper exercise. It also redesignated all the council's complaints as inquiries so that they could be ignored. The members of the task group didn't ask residents for their experiences and views. They visited the construction site, they saw the show flat, the boxing club, and the newly created flats, but none of the flats where there were unresolved problems. The group then commended the contractor on its performance and the excellent work of the TMO team. They also promised that a full project review would be carried out 6 months after the refurbishment was finished. This review never happened. The report to the TMO board was tendentious, inaccurate, and did not meet the brief set out in the petition. It was presented at great length at the end of a very long TMO board meeting, and there was no opportunity to debate it. So I wrote to every member of the TMO board, pointing out the problems with the report. My comments were ignored, and I was reprimanded for sending them to all board members without permission. When the TMO board was referred back to the Scrutiny Committee, I wrote again to every member of that committee, pointing out the problems with the report. My written comments were ignored, and a procedural manoeuvre by the former committee chairman and the chief executive of the TMO ensured that I was not permitted to speak on the issue. We have corralled members of the public into the Great Hall for this debate in case they should become disruptive. My question is that when all the correct procedures have been observed and totally ignored, and more than 100 people have died as a result, how else can people get this council to listen unless they take direct action and disrupt meetings? So, Councillor Campbell, I do not understand why you've only apologised for the council's failure to react after the fire. Where is your apology for the council's failures to act that preceded the fire?
Councillor Denko, do you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be brief. I'd just like to say that I agree entirely with the petitioner's demands, and I'd like to focus on the matter of the future of master planning and developing parts of North Kensington. Having reviewed some of the previous objectives for Silchester, for example, these included the fact that they should be financially viable and at no cost to the council. and I'm very confused about this, is if we are to go forward with change, please listen to these points. Does the Council actually need, with its near £1/3 billion of reserves, to stimulate cost-neutral or even profitable projects? And where's our share of the £150 million promised by the government to regenerate estates? We need to, if there is to be any development at all or development of estates or parts of estates, there have to be guarantees, not commitments, to the tenants, leaseholders and freeholders, because nobody believes them. We've seen this happening in other parts of London where the offer at the end of it was absolutely nothing, including at Wallington Green, which has been a very, very sorry tale. So I will be brief. Please, in 2009, when the council had demolished even a residential care home, and I was accused of always being negative and saying we didn't want anything, I actually instigated a community project there where we community participation, and we had a people's plan for the site, working with local people with the help of some volunteer architects, and it was very beautiful. It needed more work on it, but it was a very inspiring design which everybody is very excited about. So remember, there is a history of co-design in the borough, and it's very rewarding indeed, as long as you set social value above profit. So I look forward to seeing full community participation and co-design projects in the future. Our communities will flourish and will be the richer for them.
Councillor Bakhtiar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have read about most revolutions in my youth. Then I joined the Peshmerga forces, and when I was just 19, I washed and buried my friend. After that, Death and I became close friends. But nothing like what I have witnessed in the past, in the peacetime 21st century London just over a month ago. I have witnessed an uprising. It was better and bigger than any revolution that I have read about. I saw people defeating the biggest army in the region, defeating the police and the biggest and more ruthless secret police in our modern history. I saw them destroying government buildings and looting them. I saw them burning nearly every government building and destroying anything linked to that government. People were so angry, and that hated the government so much, they wanted to smash anything linked to that government. Then there was a period of chaos, where there was no government, no jobs, no traffic police, nothing but chaos. Then I learned that worse government is better than chaos. All this happened because the government didn't listen, underestimated people's power, and overestimated its own. Something similar to what had happened in this borough, which led to the biggest man-made national disaster in this country. The majority party on this council took their supporters' vote. The majority party on this council took the support of their voters for granted, and they knew no matter what the minority party did or said, they can't get very far. That's why they were so aggressive in their policies in any major development or regeneration projects in the north. Or that's how the northern residents felt it. It looks like every major project on redevelopment, on regeneration in this borough was politically motivated. On one occasion, a councillor said, "How can we break Berlin Wall?" meaning North Kensington. This is morally wrong. There are no walls. But even if there is, or there was, it's created by those who cut services, turn colleges and developments, and demolish libraries to serve the privileged, and close children's centers to put more money in the reserve. There is a big moral responsibility and a very big question to be asked right now, which is for the majority party supporters. Did you vote for your representatives to behave in this manner and fail you and the community? During the past 5 weeks, I was humbled to come across tens of volunteers and true natural leaders from our communities. In this borough, among our communities, amongst our citizens, we have just over 50% of whom were born outside of the UK, and just over 10% of Muslims. But it's clear that this has not been reflected in this chamber. The true leadership shows in crisis, and I have personally came across tens of true heroes and natural leaders in the past 5 weeks. And I am sure that many of them who are from our communities will take the lead and start representing their communities if we have another election. This council failed its citizens, therefore it cannot and should not be allowed to carry on to do business as usual until May next year.
Councillor Press. Councillor Press.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's with a very heavy heart that I think we continue this meeting, as I don't think we were doing justice to the eloquence of the survivors or respecting them. And it would have been nice to have had a statement recognising that from the majority party. But the survivors were far more eloquent than we can be here, and they are far more able to speak here. But in respect of all the work of the petitioners and the fact that we have supported this throughout, I think we continue. And I hope that in the next 24 hours you will have time to rethink your leadership position and change any prepared press statements. Madam Mayor, 2 weeks ago and 2 weeks after the Grenfell fire, I went to North Kensington Library for my regular evening surgery. I went up to the first floor self-study and meeting room, and there in front of me was yet another shocking, very material example of the neglect and lack of care that this petition and fellow Labour councillors' speeches and motions are trying to address this evening, and which is illustrated throughout North Kensington. The glass doors of the meeting room were closed and access barred by warning tape, as behind and inside lay lumps of the 19th century ceiling and cornicing on the floor and computer tables. Computers covered with dust and lumps of plaster, and in the ceiling a very large hole looking up to the wood floor above. So this is the sorry state of this iconic building we've talked about so many times in the last year, built through public subscriptions and donations in 1891 and put in this council's care for future generations. The second floor has already been out of bounds to the public for some years, and only staff are allowed there. And I have it in writing, it is structurally unsound. When I expressed concern about this at Housing and Property Scrutiny Committee, I was told that all these structural weaknesses and the disrepair would be made good by the council before leasing the building to the private prep school in 2019. So that's all right then, just 2 years to go, and as long as we wear helmets at the computers, we might get there. No wonder this petition states that we have no confidence in the council's ability to manage our public buildings. For the past year, Friends of North Kensington Library have been requesting membership of the stakeholder group being established to oversee and be consulted on the development and the building of the new library. The current stakeholders being senior council officers, administrators for the prep schools, client-side contractors and perhaps a councillor. There has been no consideration of including users, parents who use the children's library, people who study and use the computers. No specific exclusion, but no consideration. This is why this petition and the Labour councillors are not just calling for a halt and review on current housing and planning, but for a whole new approach to working with, not for or despite local residents, and for a whole new leadership to take this on. I didn't know what Councillor Bakhtiar was going to say tonight, but my career was in community development overseas, and in that field the British government, as the Department for International Development, and British agencies often lead in the practice of early and effective consultation, participation and collaboration with local communities, in developing their neighbourhoods and improving their life chances, with an emphasis on their rights during the process. And why is this? Well, in my experience from many countries in the Middle East, because they don't trust local government or government officials, and nor do the communities. So now is the time to not only halt and review current plans, but to approach the regeneration and rebuilding of North Kensington as the rebuilding of trust, and using the tried and tested approaches that work in so-called failed states. So it is time for others to take over. Let commissioners take on the leadership, and using these techniques, rebuild trust. So just as in the south, in Iraq, in Yemen, in Egypt, where we would sit at a bus stop or a well and people came to us and are very capable of saying exactly what they need to make their lives better and how it can happen. Now is the time for a totally new leadership to be seen, not just up north, but throughout the borough. But in the north, re-establish a presence there. Give us back our community centres. Give us back our information centres, right where we need them, not out in Latimer Road. Give us free meeting rooms. And come and sit in the cafes, in the markets, and at the back of community meetings, and listen to residents who know exactly what's wrong and what the solutions might be, and build trust again by involving residents from the very beginning in co-designing reviews and plans. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Wade. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. This is a summation of what I was going to say before, but some of the points that have been raised are what were contained in my presentation. The Council has sold off leases on borough freehold properties to private companies rather than develop the properties for borough benefit, as with Thamesbrook and North Kensington Library. For many residents, the planning department is felt to be too pro-developer rather than resident, and there is a lack of rigour, transparency, accountability and enforcement when it comes to developers and the impact on the quality of the lives of our residents as a consequence of development. But the scandal is that planning gain is not delivering the additional social rented housing that we require. Regardless of council policy, and with developers routinely getting around provision with payment in lieu of apparently about 50 million over the last 5 years, the Council should make it a priority to build a range of genuinely affordable homes and not leave it to developers to fulfil. The 77-acre Earls Court development is a prime example of a failure to deliver additional social rented homes, as well as a failure to replace the lost exhibition centre. And as for Grenfell and the problems in North Kensington, I feel that I would ask the leader to consider and incorporate in any review the following, so that there is a constructive way forward, that the Grenfell emergency requires an area-based committee made of wards affected by the disaster, headed by local ward councillors. The committee's role would be to oversee the coordination of the council's response locally, be resourced appropriately, with officers reporting directly to this committee. Thank you.
Councillor Palmer, do you wish to speak?
Madam Mayor, the residents of Queensgate Ward, some have asked me, what did I do during the tragic events of Grenfell fire? And I tell them that I was there at 3 o'clock in the morning. I tell them that I saw the great fire wrap around the building against the darkness of the skies. And I saw the mobile phone lights in the window in the higher stories, knowing that it was a silent scream for help. But these are not the memories that come top of my mind. I knew I had a job to do in the chaos of the event, and standing near Latimer Road station made it my job to talk to the victims as they were emerging, some of them wearing breathing apparatus, but all carrying the bare minimum of their lives. Sitting down with them after the emergency services had processed them I asked them some simple questions. Were they okay themselves? Were their family okay? Is there someone you want to talk to on my mobile phone? In the process of talking to one household, I met a young lady. When I asked her my second question about her family being okay, she burst into tears, saying that her son was with her as they were evacuating the building, but they got split up. I tried to give her some comfort in the hope that he might have gone to another centre. What I am sure now is that the son was 5-year-old Isaac Paulus, whose funeral was last week. As a parent, I can understand his mother's grief and pain. As a councillor, I want to add my sorrow for her and everyone else's loss. We could have done better, but her loss and her pain is the one I will carry for the rest of my life.
Thank you. I ask the Council to recommend to the Leader to take account of the Councillors' comments in responding to the petition. Is that agreed?
Agreed. Can I speak?
Sorry.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead and speak, Councillor Campbell. Sorry.
Okay, I'd like to thank you, Eve, for submitting this petition. As we've heard tonight from many people, this is an incredibly traumatic time for bereaved and for injured and for many other victims of this tragedy. And Councillor Blakeman, it's made all the more frustrating by the fact that there are so many questions to which we don't yet have answers. Many inquiries are taking place into how this happened. The actions of the TMO and indeed of the Council, both before and after the tragedy, will rightly come under investigation. And it is right that we should find out what went so drastically wrong, that lessons must be learned, and that we should put in place changes to make sure that a tragedy like this never can happen again. And as I've already said this evening, the response of the Council was not good enough, and indeed the Chief Executive and Leader of the Council have resigned. And tonight I have appointed a fresh leadership team. Councillor Press, we will not continue business as usual, and we will rebuild trust, as I said, brick by brick. Councillor Dent-Code, as I've already said, we are pressing the pause button on many of our plans we had for existing housing stock. All regeneration projects have been put on hold, and we will be reviewing in detail all plans for improving estates. And I want to make sure that the community is consulted on all master plans that have yet to be implemented. We will be working with local resident groups to ensure we understand the implications of what is being proposed. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell has just responded to the petition.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. Under a petition bit, there's no response. It's simply that members of the Council speak, and I would like to speak.
Okay. Speak, Councillor Thompson.
I thank Councillor Campbell for her response to Eve's petition, but there are a number of questions that are really left in my mind unanswered by that response. This evening we've heard quite a lot about a culture of change from the majority group, and we, of course, would welcome that. I mean, that culture of change is one that I'm not really sure that actually most people outside these walls are actually aware what the culture was like. Normally, these meetings end after 2 hours. Somebody will stand up and guillotine us because they want to go to dinner. We're prevented from asking lots, or like one Conservative member said to me recently, why did I ask so many questions at a scrutiny committee? My response was, what on earth is scrutiny for? The other thing, of course, is that this evening we have an imam here. but we had a very heated debate about whether we should not even have a civic service which had representatives of other faiths, although I do thank the majority group for actually having a free vote on that and getting it through. But that is indicative of how the majority group is completely out of touch with the culture of North Kensington. And that brings me to a second issue that's on my mind, because what the leader failed to address in responding to Eve was she did say that all of the regeneration programmes were on hold, and we thank you for that. But what you didn't address was the North Kensington Library, which is also actually part of Eve's petition. And what really sticks in my goat is that, of course, when we had the debate about the North Kensington Library in this chamber, I asked whether or not Councillor Rockfielding-Mellon had a pecuniary interest. And I was told that he didn't, either legally. I was told by Mr Holgate and by the legal officers that he didn't, because the Cabinet took collective responsibility. The point of Eve's petition this evening is that the former Cabinet are not taking collective responsibility for what has occurred, because some of the former Cabinet are still present. If collective responsibility is what the Cabinet have, why are former members of the Cabinet still in place in your new leadership team, Elizabeth? That's the question that you have to answer. And then thirdly, what I'm most intrigued about this evening is that Elizabeth calls this a leadership team. Is this a cabinet or is this a leadership team? What's the difference? You call them lead members. Does that mean that each member of your leadership team are not going to actually take a cabinet members' allowance, or they are simply going to take a lead members' allowance? These things are left very up in the air. Or is it simply that you're calling it a leadership team this evening because that means that actually the petition that Eve brings before us means that there's no cabinet this evening to resign?
Councillor Will.
Excuse me. I want to thank all the survivors who came and spoke this evening. I think we're all pretty humbled, and I'm actually quite shocked already that we're already in kind of tit-tat sort of political arguments when we said we wanted to talk about what they had to say. So I'm quite shocked. Please let me finish. The other thing I wanted to say, because I think it's important that people hear it, is that we asked not once but twice members of the Labour group to actually come in and work with us as part of a cabinet or a leadership team or whatever you want to call it. Because we recognise Grenfell is much bigger than anybody in this room. It is huge. And as one of the gentlemen there said, you know, they want us to act faster and quicker to help them. So we did ask the Labour group. We said, let's just put our differences aside and work together. We asked them twice, and they refused. And I just think I just wanted that to be on the record. Thank you.
Councillor Campbell, do you wish to respond to Councillor Thompson?
I would like to respond to Councillor Thompson. As I've always said, that as part of the Cabinet, which was part of the decision on Grenfell Tower, I accepted full collective responsibility. But as I have just said, many inquiries are taking place into what has happened, and the actions will rightly become under investigation. When those investigations have found one way or the other, then we'll know who needs to take the blame. Secondly, I think that the culture of the Council is going to change, and I had hoped for a cross-party consensual attitude to this. And can I just echo Emma's words? Just disappointed that you weren't able to take up a place in the Cabinet leadership team, and I reiterate my invitation.
Could you please allow Councillor Campbell to speak?
I would like to reiterate.
Could you please allow Councillor Campbell to speak?
I would like to reiterate my invitation to members of the Labour Party to come and work with us, okay? And whether we call it a cabinet or a leadership team, They will be taking cabinet salaries and they will be responsible. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson, do we have to continue
thank you, Madam Mayor.
this?
I would like to reply. First of all, I'd like to apologise to Councillor Will for the tone of my remarks. But obviously, I think if you're in the position of many of us on this group, and I'm sure of some of you on your group as well, if you've been in as many meetings that I have been over the last 5 weeks in which you've experienced the anger and trauma of others at first hand, it does affect you yourself. And indeed, we were told this evening by some of the people who contribute to us from Grenfell Tower that this was beyond party politics. And I do take what Elizabeth says in terms of actually we were offered a cabinet post in the Labour group and that you wanted to work in a cross-party and constructive way. The reality, of course, is that for us in the Labour group, it would be impossible for us, given the fact that party politics is the way it is, to accept that, because we would have somebody on the Labour group who would be sharing in the collective responsibility of cabinet. And that's the reason why we can't go forward like that. But that doesn't mean to say that actually the people of North Kensington have any more trust in you governing. They probably don't have any trust particularly in us governing either. And that's why we still would like the commissioners brought in. Because in order to rebuild trust in this community, we have to actually have a completely new start. As Eve has pointed out, and as all of us agree in this group, that cannot be done by people who've served on the previous cabinet because of collective responsibility. And we can't enter into a cross-party agreement, into a sort of de facto coalition with you by having one of our members sit on a cabinet because of collective responsibility. So the only way forward in terms of rebuilding trust is that the commissioners are brought in.
I think we've had quite a lot of conversation and debate on this particular petition, so I'd like to... Do you want to speak? Okay, if you could be...
Are we doing that?
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, we have heard from many of the survivors this evening how dignified they have been and clear in what they think happened here. They have told us, or they've told the Council, how we have failed before the Grenfell fire and after the Grenfell fire, and they mentioned the government too, and the government's got a lot to answer for in terms of fire safety and the deregulation of fire safety and building regulations. And they have said that they want us to do. They've told us the things they want us to do. I think they said enough of speeches and enough of political point scoring. They want us to do what the Council should have done but didn't do since the fire. Now, I went to the fire in the early morning after it started. And I, along with everyone else who was there, saw and heard things, terrible things that we should never see or hear. But, of course, I didn't think that I had a right as an elected representative to acknowledge that. My job was not to do that. On that morning, I think the new MP for Kensington was there. Councillor Blakeman's house became a sort of hub of us going there and trying to work out what we could do, because it became very clear by morning that there was really going to be no support from either the TMO or the Council, although we were all making phone calls to both of those organisations and asking the fire service and the police who were there, where is the emergency teams, where is it happening? And it wasn't happening. And we went around all of the different centres that we found people in who were in dreadful states of distress and need, which was simply not being met. And the food and the community resource started to pour in. Without that, they would have had no food, no water. and it was well into the morning before the TMO turned up and didn't really know where they should be putting down their computers or dealing with people. So it's quite clear that there was a complete failure of an emergency plan, which we have. We have an emergency plan, which committees on this council were given. But the plan, which of course we're going to have to look at, the plan reads well, but it was simply did not happen on the day. It talks about a major disasters. It says exactly what should happen during major disasters, what the council should do. But of course, because the council, as somebody already said, was so hollowed out in buy-in, tri-borough reviews, downsizing, offices spread across not only 3 boroughs but across London, there was nobody there to actually take the helm of that support. And of course, nobody pressed the button for the London Gold Command, which of course is why Nicholas Holgate, your predecessor, Mr. Quirk, had to go. And I said to him, why did you not do it? After he resigned, I said, why didn't you do it? There were people out there lying in all kinds of states of need. You didn't do it. And we, obviously, you must have realized, as we did, that we couldn't cope. It wasn't working. And he said, well, I should have. I think they just were not aware. I don't understand why they didn't. So that has crashed the trust completely of the community in North Kensington, which now has built its own infrastructure, its own centres, its own relief organisations, its own leadership, and you have heard what they have said with regard to the petition, with regard to the redevelopments, etc. Those developments they have been saying for years, and we have been saying for years, those developments would have and were socially cleansing those people. This is national policy as well as local policy. And it's true that we heard, but we did not listen, and that's what has happened all the way along the line. We have taken the view in the majority party, I believe, I've seen it, I've been on the council for 26 years, that if you get elected, you can enforce your policies across the whole of the borough, including North Kensington, and anyone that opposes those policies or has a view about them, never mind that you didn't sit down in the first place and say, how should we do this? They are seen as oppositionists, and then those oppositionists have to be managed. So anything they've got to say about Grenfell Tower is completely lost because they are oppositionists. They are the enemy. And we were seen as the enemy too, the people who they elected. And that is the feeling I had 2 or 3 days, I couldn't understand what it was, 2 or 3 days after the fire, was a feeling of utter shame that I was a member of an authority that acted that way and that allowed that fire to happen. We all have collective responsibility, although the people in power and government and the majority party have more responsibility than we have. We still feel it, even though we didn't have the responsibility of actually enacting it, and that we were supporting those residents to stop it happening, because many of us went through the King's Cross fire, we went through other things. We tried to stop Boris Johnson cutting 45 million off the fire service and all of 600 firefighters and so on, 600 staff here at the council. We still feel in some way that we were all to blame, we all failed, and after 26 years as a councillor, that's what I feel, and I feel anger as well, and I feel the bereavement of those people. Abdusalam Sabir, who was my friend from the Tower for 25 years, who died. Every night I go to sleep, I see his face. Every night I see the fire. I understand what some of those residents are feeling. I've been on the ground with them for a month, doing whatever they want me to do. And I feel and hear their cries. I've seen them crying, I've seen them breaking down. They're traumatized, and they are still coming here and asking for the help they should have got. These are severely traumatized people, and I feel a little bit of that. And they're saying, you don't understand. We need you to help us. And the hurdles they have to go through. I made a whole list of the things that are deficient. The services that we are saying are available to them, and this is how it works, it's not working like that in many ways. It's not working like that in many ways. Here's one single example. A survivor who lost everything except a few possessions he managed to get from Grenfell Tower. When his father then had a heart attack, he went to the hospital, and then his car was robbed of those few things that he had. And when he went to the Westway Centre to try to get some money that he was due, he was told, you can't have any cash until you get some housing. But he couldn't get housing because we didn't give it to him. So there's a whole series of things here. The amnesty, the Home Office amnesty. People should just come forward, give all the details, and then they'll be deported in a year. And, you know, this is to do with the government's policies of UKIP and all the rest of it, but these people are suffering because of that. They're lying, they are, as the MP said, lying about in cars, hiding on people's sofas. They are there, and they can't dare come forward. Not only would they be in the frame, but the Home Office would be looking at their friends to see if any of them are in the frame. It's completely inhumane. And I made a long, long list. I've spent 4 weeks talking to the various people in all the different centres, going to the Justice for Grenfell meetings, going to all sorts of other meetings, collecting all this stuff, trying to feed it back in. You know, what they are saying is, A, we're not offering the support, and where the support is being offered, in too many cases, there are too many catch-22s in the system, and they can't get what we are supposed to be delivering. They just want us to do their job. And as they said at that meeting, I think 2 weeks ago, they said, Councillor Campbell, we don't want nothing from you. We just want you in the council to do your job and deliver for us, the survivors, who are in states of trauma. We have nothing. We don't have any houses. We don't have any money. We don't feel much hope. We are in every state of trauma and distress, but you are still making us work to get what we should have. Key workers, for example. People are given key workers, but in too many cases they have to chase up the key workers 10, 20 times in calls. And in one case, a person phoned a key worker who said, I can't deal with you because I'm going on leave tomorrow. I mean, hello, you know, that is simply not connecting with those people. And there's a lot of those cases, and that's what they're talking about.
Okay, Councillor Mason,
want us to
you've
do
run over
our
time.
Job. And, you know, the council and even the Grenfell response team and the government are still not doing our job. And that's why they're here saying what they're saying.
Okay, Councillor Mason, thank you. I think quite a few people... Shall we move on to a general debate later, or do you want to speak to the petition, Councillor Taylor-Smith?
Yes, I'll speak to the petition and I'll be very brief because I understand it's late and it's... anyway, I mean, we've all felt the anger of going into North Kensington. And that's not a Labour thing, it's not a Conservative thing. We've all felt the anger. We've all felt ashamed. I can absolve myself of responsibility of saying I'm a new councillor, it was nothing to do with me. But I'm not going to do that, because there's a job of work to be done here, and I've got a new job, which started this evening, and my job is to provide more housing and help with the regeneration of North Kensington. Okay? Now, as far as I'm concerned, if I may finish, that is a job that's best accompanied with cross-party support. Because the Labour councillors... Please, may I finish?
Can you please allow Councillor Taylor-Smith to speak?
No, can I just finish my point,
I'm sorry,
please?
they did listen when you presented the petition. Could you please listen to the councillors?
I just want to finish, and I'll sit down. Okay. I just want to finish by saying I believe that that is a job that's best done with cross-party working, and I'm very happy to offer that as far as my job is concerned, which is obviously looking at providing housing. And I offer that to the cross-party to come and help and assist me in that job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I would then ask the Council to recommend to the Leader to take into account the Councillors' comments in responding to the petition. Is that agreed? Do any members have any other petitions which they wish to submit? So we will move on to the motions.
Dealt with those. They've all been passed.
We haven't voted on them.
Okay, no, we can vote.
Are we going to vote? Are we voting on them, or are we just taking it that they are agreed? Okay, so therefore I would put all four motions to the Council, and the first motion as amended. Understood that it is the motion as amended. Can I ask for all those in favour?
I think it's unanimous.
So it's unanimous. Oh, it's electronic. Could you press your buttons, please? Is that done?
Yep.
Okay. Has anyone not voted? It is unanimous. Okay, thank you. No. Okay, so we're moving on to any business, and I would like to open up the floor for some debate about what we have heard this evening from the people, the survivors. But I have one lady here who I believe wishes to address the meeting. So if we listen first, and then perhaps members would like to speak.
Good evening. My name is Kimmy Zabian. I grew up in Kensington and Chelsea, in the posh bits, the bits that you all live in. Can you hear me? Yeah, my name is Kimmy Zabian. I grew up in Kensington and Chelsea. I went to private school in Kensington and Chelsea. We lived in Holland Park. And I am disgusted by what my council has turned into, because in my time, we were not a divided community. We played in the park together. We skateboarded down the boardwalk together. It was not a divided community. And I went down to Grenfell on day 5 because I knew that there were people from my community in that tower, and I went down to help and translate. And I have not stopped. It's been 24 hours a day. My phone rings at 4 o'clock in the morning from people who are distressed. I've got a man in Acton who's severely depressed and threatening to take his own life. And when I finally drag him down to the Westway, trying to get some funds for him, I call a number and they tell me, ask him what he did with the £100 we gave him yesterday. And that is disgusting. And I said, I'm not going to translate that. This is a man who's lost everything. He's been evacuated. He's staying in a hotel room by himself. His wife isn't here. And the volunteers are the only people that are literally holding these people's heads above the water, waiting for the rescue boats to arrive. And you're not arriving, and you keep telling us there's a process. I had a meeting with a councillor, and she told us, well, there's a process. Well, your process isn't working. It's organised chaos. And to me, it feels like it's deliberate, that you're doing this deliberately to wear these people down, to frustrate them, to make them give up. It is so exhausting. They have to go from pillar to post for the slightest thing. They have 10, 20 people call them a day. People show up. I'm your key worker. The guy's telling me he's the key worker trying to handle some woman's housing, and the last department he worked in was sanitation from a different borough. This is what you've done. And then you tell us, councillor, that this is a human resources problem. I don't think it's rocket science to put, you could have very easily taken a room at each hotel where you knew people were staying at, turned over a room and a suite, put some council people in there, so these people did not have to drag themselves out when they don't even have shoes and clothes. The day that it rained here, but bear in mind all the clothing that was handed out by the donations, right, which in itself is humiliating, wearing other people's shoes. Right, you try it. You try wearing other people's shoes. The day that it rained was the first day people realised they don't have right shoes for rain. They didn't have jackets because everything they'd been given in the first 2 weeks was just summer clothes. This is what we as volunteers are dealing with. And you're not responding because you just think, well, there's a process or there's a human rights problem, there's a human resources problem. Why didn't you put people in each hotel? You had lists of them. The police know exactly where they are. They turned up to take statements.
Why couldn't you just put someone there to help them instead of them having to drag themselves out down to the Westway, the cacophony of sound, the confusion, people after people just introducing themselves, saying they're going to do this and that, people showing up and saying they're counsellors and therapists, and they're just kooks. You don't even know who they are. And women are telling me they don't want to hand their children over for mental health therapy because they don't know who's talking to their kids. So they're trying to cope. This is what you're doing. You are terrorizing them beyond belief. And I am so ashamed of this borough that I was educated in, that I grew up in.
So, would any of the members wish to speak? Okay.
I'm sorry that I'm coming back here to ask you a question.
در رابطه با ساختمونه که ما ازشون خواستیم که یه کاوه روش بکشن که بر سر بارون و باد اثرات از بین نره. چرا این کارو نکردن؟
The community would very much like to have this building covered because it's terrorizing the community. Every day they have to look at it and you're not covering it and you're not giving them answers.
بگین باد و بارون تمام اثرات رو از بین میبره و نمیتونن تحقیقاتشون رو تموم بکنن.
At the Gold Command meeting last week, the DCI said the reason for this was because if they covered it, it would interfere with and tamper with the evidence because of difference in temperatures and humidity. But the point is, wind and rain is tampering with the evidence. So there is no logic in what you're saying.
چرا این کارو نمیکنن؟
Why are you not covering that building so people don't have to look at it day and night?
قصدشون از این کار چیه؟
What is the purpose of it? What are you trying to achieve?
همینطوری با مردم همدردی میکنین.
Is that how you feel sorry for the people and show sympathy?
همینطوری با این آدمایی که سوختن و رفتن همدردی میکنین.
Is this how you show sympathy to the people who've died in that building? When we look at that, this is not her saying it, I'm saying this. When we look at that building, we see the souls of those people that died in there. Every time we look at it, and people in that community now, they don't make eye contact anymore. When they walk down the street, everyone turns their gaze. You have no idea what you've done to that community.
شما احترام به اونایی که رفتن رو نمیذاری.
You don't respect that community.
حتی اونایی که موندن.
Not even the ones that remain.
ازتون خواهش میکنم برای آخرین بار حمایت کنین ما رو.
I'm asking you, please, do what you're supposed to do to protect and look after us.
Thank you.
Can anyone answer the question specifically about covering the building?
Can I just respond to the
Yes.
covering? Can I just respond to the question about the covering of the tower? It isn't a decision that we can make as a council. It's under the police. I went up the tower myself last week, and it is going to take them a long time to complete the investigation. And I believe that one of the reasons that they can't cover it yet is because they have to put structures in, and if they cover it, they're worried that the building won't be safe. And they need the investigating teams to carry on so that families can get their answer. And I understand that they will be finished by the end of October. Is that right, Ken? They have 15 tons of debris of floor, and they have to prop up the floors, and they do need to, complete their investigations. That's what we understand from the police.
And whoever is saying that, it would be very easy to put scaffolding that is... You can put the tarpaulin, this is the building, you can put the tarpaulin around it. You don't have to put it on it. You can put it around it so that people don't have to look at it. But I guess because that's going to cost about £750,000. That it's just like, well, we're going to bring this thing down anyway. Why bother? The thing is, fires terrorize communities. That's why people make big fires. The Klan made fires. The DUP burned tires. Fires terrorize communities. Structures like that are terrorizing the community. You've got to stop it. You can cover it. Do something. Well, what...
Want it covered, we would like it covered. But unless somebody's going to contradict me, the council doesn't have the authority to cover the building. It must be the police who do that. If you want it and the community want it, then we want it as councillors. But if we don't have the authority to do it because the police have control of the building and it's up to them to do it, and the coroner, then we personally here can't do it. We'd love to do it if you want it done, but we can't do it as a council because we don't have control of the building. We can tell the police. No. We have told the police that is the wish of the community. We have told the police, haven't we? But we don't personally have the authority.
The Home Secretary.
The Home Secretary, the Commissioner. Yes.
Councillor Lashari would like to speak.
Sorry, as a resident who lives in the block underneath the tower, not only did I see the fire and not only are my children terrorised, but we are also haunted by the tower every day. And my son right now does not want to go home because there was a second fire in the walkway on Friday night. The ripple effect of this fire, as Emma Rose said, is too big for everyone. That's probably why we need help from commissioners. The ripple effect will not be dealt with in 1 year, 1 month, or whenever. There are people right now in hotels being told they need to leave by July, the end of July, and the tower is still there. They don't want to see it. What are you going to do about those people? How are you going to manage every single person who's affected by this?
What's this? Okay. I think Councillor Wade.
Yes, to answer the question about being invited to go into a cabinet, I suspect that it's now time to set the cabinet system aside and to actually go for a cross-party committee system reflecting the diversity of the borough. A committee system which would promote transparency of decision-making and accountability through voting. And I think we can also perhaps examine the nominations to the key committees should be based on interest and ability rather than political nomination. And another point is that I was concerned that the main impact of actually addressing the problems on the day and around the time were on community groups. Community groups weren't set up to be able to respond to a drama and a crisis of this nature. I mean, it was one that a national response found daunting. So the question is, I understand that there was an originally an emergency planning team within the council which was disbanded and incorporated into community safety. And so, given the fact it's not realistic to ask these community groups to be able to handle these complex situations, it would be sincerely hoped that it would be reviewed.
Everybody, I think, out of respect, that we will have to now suspend the meeting and bring it to a close. Obviously, there will be time as we go forward to discuss all of these issues again, but I think at the moment we can't continue. Sorry?
You're suspending the meeting.
We're closing the meeting. Okay, to clarify, I am now closing the meeting. Okay. Because someone is not well.